Welcome to the 2024 Missouri Valley Media Day here on the field of 68. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman with me, and for the next about 3.5 hours, we are going to be joined by every coach from the Missouri Valley Conference here. We'll be talking about the league. We'll be breaking it down. We'll be asking them questions about a lot of the new faces that you're going to see here, and trust me, you're going to want to be tuned in if you are a fan of Valley basketball. There are quite a bit of new faces. There's quite a bit of turnover. We have 5 new head coaches in the conference. 12 of the 13 potential all-league players that could have returned with eligibility left are gone from the league. That means only one is back, and he is our preseason player of the year. We'll get to that here in just a second. Before we do, though, Jeff, I want to ask you this. The amount of turnover that we're seeing in the Valley this year is not uncommon when it comes to the rest of the conferences at the same kind of level in college basketball. There's turnover everywhere. You get down to the D2 ranks, they're getting rated by some of the mid-majors and the low majors that need to bring players up because their best players were off to the high major ranks. It's what it is in college basketball right now. My question to you is, 1, is this sustainable? And 2, how do these teams – how can you build that continuity? How can you build that year over year where you have guys coming back, where people know what they're supposed to be doing?
You know, it's difficult. I mean, like you said, everybody's going through it. All the low and mid-major conferences are getting poached right now. And it's a combination of, obviously, NIL, that the high majors have a lot more money that they can throw around, and they are throwing around a lot more money. And the fact that these transfers don't have to sit out. You know, in the old days, it was you had to sit out a year. So a lot of kids didn't want to do that. Now they don't have to. They just play right away. They can transfer 3, 4, 5 times. We're seeing it. The key is being older, and that's where these Missouri Valley teams are trying to go. That's where everybody's trying to go at this point. But again, the biggest thing, there's not a lot of loyalty within college basketball these days. Money is, effectively running the game to some degree, and you're hoping, if you're a coach, that you can retain. Can you retain half of your rotation? Can you retain 4 of your top 8 guys? If you're doing that, that's a heck of an offseason.
So the two big storylines and the two teams that had the most kind of national juice last year were Drake and obviously Indiana State. Josh Schertz took the head coaching job at St. Louis and brought a couple of transfers with him. The rest of the starting lineup ended up transferring to other places. At Drake, Darian DeVries ended up getting the job at West Virginia, and his son went with him. Those are things that you kind of expect, regardless of whether or not there is NIL or trade. Like that's the kind of stuff that is typical of college basketball. If your coach goes somewhere else, you're going to try to try to go with him. And if he leaves, you're going to try to go find a bigger program to go to. The one that I think is the red flag to me is what happened with Belmont. And Casey Alexander lost basically his 3 best players to the high major ranks. Malik Gio went to Ole Miss. Kay Tyson went to North Carolina, and Jacoby Gillespie went to Maryland. All of them had at least 2 years of eligibility remaining. That's the one that's the red flag, because Belmont would be the preseason favorite to win this league if he had those 3 guys back. And, of course, they are not back.
No, they're not. And now you're looking at Belmont, and I know we're going to reveal the preseason poll here in a minute, but Belmont is not number 1. They're not number 2. They're not in the top 3. I don't want to give it away. But, yeah, when you get absolutely ravaged like that from your 3 best players, and again, what I want to propose, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen, Rob, but is if a high major does raid a Belmont or another mid-major or low-major team, that they have to pay a fee. I know you're a big soccer guy. It's like a transfer fee, right? They pay $50,000 if they take a player, because Belmont should be rewarded for evaluating, getting these 3 kids when, frankly, no other high majors probably wanted them, and then developing over the last couple of years. They should get something back in return to give them at least some money here that they can compete and maybe get another player or so. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but Charlie Baker or whoever's listening, hopefully, I think this would be a really good idea to try to compensate those low and mid majors to give them a chance.
Yeah, I actually don't hate the idea. I think it makes a lot of sense, because when you're at this level, if you lose 3 guys, you can get like 50 or 75,000 for each of them. That will get you a really good player at the mid-major level. That will get you in the market where you're competitive to be able to bring in some talent that's going to be pretty good. Let's get into the preseason Missouri Valley men's basketball poll as released by the league. We're unveiling it here on the Field of 68. Bradley was projected to be the best team in the conference. They got 46 of 49 first place votes, as you can see there in the poll. Northern Iowa predicted second. Murray State predicted third. You can see they got 1 first place vote there. My guess is that Steve Prohm somehow snuck his way into getting a media credential to be able to allow him to vote for his own program to be in first place. Illinois State, Drake, and Belmont finish out the top half, whereas you have Southern Illinois, Indiana State, Evansville, Valparaiso, Missouri State, and UIC bringing up the rear. Jeff, Bradley brings back Duke Dean, who is the only returning all-conference player from last season. They have, I'm going to give another spoiler here, they have 2 guys on the Missouri Valley preseason first team, and they have 3 guys that received all-conference preseason honors. What do you kind of expect from a program when they have this level of expectation on them? It's pretty much the consensus favorite to win the conference.
Yeah, and a lot of it is because of Duke Dean, frankly. I mean, a fifth-year kid, Darius Hannah, Christian Davis. They got a lot coming back. They lost some stuff, obviously some key players, but, defense travels. We know Brian Wardle's team is going to be good defensively every single year. Made the NIT last year. And again, it's just kind of familiarity as much as anything. And it's hard right now to do a preseason poll with all these new faces, but Bradley doesn't have as many new faces.
Yeah, I kind of made fun of Coach Prohm there a little bit. I think we're allowed to because we were the ones that revived his coaching career here on the Field of 68. He did a year with us after in between Iowa State and heading back to Missouri State. I think that they're being overlooked a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that there's talent on that roster. I think Jacoby Wood is a guy that has a real chance to be in the mix. We have a preseason player of the year. That's Duke Dean. I'm just going to spoil it. We've already teased it too many times. I think Jacoby Wood's one of those guys that has a chance to be postseason player of the year and maybe one of the bigger names. Talented kid, hasn't quite progressed the way that we expected, but this is, he gets another year to kind of work with Coach Prohm. I think he's got a real shot. I really like this Racers program.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you knew it was going to take a little bit of time, right? Coming from the OVC to the Missouri Valley, it's obviously a significant jump. Prohm knew that when he took the job. Now he's got the program in a pretty good spot where he feels good about it. Year 3, obviously, again, 17 and 15 last year in the Valley. And he's got enough talent and brings in enough talent through the portal, I think, to feel pretty good. Look out for Kyron Lindsay. Who's a former top 100 player, was at Georgia and Texas Tech over the last couple of years.
Yeah, one of but let's get into the preseason all conference teams here. If you want to break those down with me as well. Duke Dean, obviously the preseason player of the year at Bradley. He's joined on the first team by teammate Darius Hannah. We also have Titan Anderson from Northern Iowa, Cooper Schweiger from Valpo, and Jacoby Wood from Missouri State. The guy that I want to ask you about, Johnny Kinzinger, who is at Illinois State. He is a guy that really caught fire towards the end of last season, and I'm glad that he got some recognition here. Over the last 7 games last year, he averaged 17.1 points for an Illinois State team coached by Ryan Pedon, who really needs to find a way to give up the throat lozenges, the cough drops. He has a little bit of a thing with cough drops, but I think that Kinzinger is a guy that can be maybe a breakout star here that not enough people know about nationally, not just in the Valley. Yeah,
I mean, he was on the all freshman team. Obviously, Pedon expects him to take a significant jump. Really shot the heck out of it. And again, remember, Illinois State was the only team to beat Indiana State in Terre Haute last year. So he'll talk about it later in the show, but I know he has really focused on upgrading the perimeter shooting because that was a major cause for concern a year ago.
Yeah, there was a real chance that you might have been able to be like a top 2, top 3 shooter on Illinois State's roster this past season. All right, we have about a minute here before we're really going to dive into the show. So before we do that, what is the thing that you're most excited about seeing in the Valley this year? Is there a player? Is there a coach? Is it just, the return of one of the most entertaining mid-major conferences that we've seen in the history of college basketball?
Yeah, I think it's that it's wide open. I think that it's, we think we have answers, but we really have no idea with all the turnover this year. Again, I know Ben Jacobson likes his team a lot. We'll be asking him about them later on the show. Belmont, don't count them out. Again, Drake, obviously, with a new coach, how are they going to be? The return of Cuonzo Martin, Robert Ehsan at UIC, can he kind of get that program back on track? And again, Dave Ragland, he's done a great job so far at Evansville. There's just a lot of Scott Nagy, like one of the best major coaches in America, is in the Valley this year.
Yeah, there's something special about Missouri Valley basketball. It is the way that these fan bases embrace their schools. I think that having a Belmont and a Missouri State added, I know that it's been, Murray State added. I know it's been a couple of years, but getting them in these leagues, they're a perfect fit because they're small college towns where you have a fan base that absolutely adores these basketball programs. And it's a lot of fun to watch. It's a lot of fun to follow. And we're going to have a lot of fun talking through these teams and these conferences and these previews with the 12 head coaches in the Missouri Valley. We have a full slate, Missouri Valley Media Day, that is coming up right now on the Field of 68.
All right, now pleased to welcome in none other than Missouri Valley Commissioner Jeff Jackson. Been the commissioner since 2021. Before that, associate commissioner at the Big 12. Before that, also at the Big South. But I've known JJ here since his previous lifetime. And a lot of people don't know this, but your previous lifetime was as a college basketball coach. You were the head coach at Furman for 7 years. I knew you when you were an assistant at Vanderbilt. I forgot you were the head coach at UNH, which was right around the corner from where I lived till recently and where I grew up in Massachusetts. Good to have you on. I'm really happy we're doing this with the Valley because it's always been one of my favorite conferences in America. There's a purity to the Valley, Jeff. Yeah. There's a purity, and I hope it's still there through all this NIL stuff. I think it is.
Well, first, thanks for having me, Jeff. And yes, I've gone to the dark side. And it's a very interesting place of residence, but enjoying it so far. And you make a great point. It's funny when I first had the opportunity to think about this job, and you're like myself, we're basketball guys. We're steeped in it. It's what we think about. It's what we enjoy. It's what we love. And I'm like, hey, that's the Valley. Okay, I mean the Valley. And then kind of like what you alluded to, you get in here. And you realize how important it is to our institutions, how they've built villages to support their student athletes, how important it is to the communities. And you understand why the Valley is so vibrant and why it is such a special place.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of those, it had so much success over the years. The hardest part for me these days, honestly, I'll be candid with you, is realignment. Like there's a lot of it that's hard. I'm old school. I'm trying to adapt. You're trying to adapt.
Trying to figure out how Stanford's playing Wake Forest in basketball and how all that's going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an Arizona guy. And I'm like, Arizona, Kansas in the Big 12? Like, no, we need Arizona, UCLA twice, once at McHale, once at Poly. Well, we're not going to get that.
Hey, let's be honest. Arizona, Kansas twice ain't bad, though.
That ain't bad. No, it's not. Listen, agree.
That's pretty freaking good.
What has this been like for you? You're going to lose Missouri State after this year in 2025. You'll be down to 11 members. Like, what is life like for you right now? Is it more stress than when you're recruiting for Kevin Stallings at Vanderbilt, or no?
Well, now it's going to be hard to have more stress than that, but it is interesting because, it's kind of like a combination. When I was in college, we would play a game called Risk. and you're trying to figure out how to amass the most countries and weaponry, and you're basically trying to figure out how to rule the world. And what we're in is a game of a combination game of risk and dominoes. Okay, and I've never played that game before, so this is new territory. But it's very interesting because certainly with the restructuring, the reformation, whatever the proper term is for the Pac-12, we all know there's going to be ramifications from that. There's going to be movement in the Mountain West. There's going to be movement maybe in the American or possibly in Conference USA and in other conferences. That institutions look and try and figure out what's absolutely the best situation for them to position themselves. And so the nice thing about being in a conference like the Missouri Valley is that I think for many institutions, we're an aspirational conference. We're a conference where, as you stated earlier, Jeff, there's some tradition. There's a sense of importance. Everybody knows the value that we place on the student athlete experience. And so I think our board, and when I refer to our board, I'm talking about our presidents and chancellors, where we always kind of have our head on a swivel, trying to see if there are places out there, institutions out there, communities out there who can enhance our student athlete experience, enhance our worth, enhance what the Missouri Valley is. And as many people know, when we first got in here, and when I say we, I'm talking about our staff coming in my tenure. Within those first 4 or 5 months, we added Murray State, we added Belmont, and we added UIC, and they accomplished those tasks that I just alluded to. So I think that's the approach that we have. We're fine with 11, but if we have the opportunity to improve ourselves, whether that's because it's a storied basketball program, maybe it's a community that we think brings some vibrancy, I'm sure our board will take that into account and make the appropriate decision.
Yeah, I love what you did when you first got the job. I mean, those are three good institutions that fit you guys, right? I mean, Belmont, the tradition of Belmont and Murray State, UIC being in Chicago. Obviously, Ehsan's going to hopefully get that thing back going a little bit, but they fit. I mean, that was perfect. Sometimes you see a league and a commissioner add some schools that you feel like, I don't know, I'm scratching my head on that one. Like, I'm not sure they make sense. Those three made like complete sense. Like I looked at that and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you said it really well. I don't think there was any question. And look, Loyola was a great partner to the Missouri Valley, and they will always do a great job. They've got great leadership on that campus. We certainly wanted to reestablish ourselves in Chicago, and having an opportunity to work with UIC, one of the most prestigious institutions in the country. And you're right, Rob's going to go in there. He's going to do fantastic work. They've got great facilities. They got support. They're going to get there. But then adding two programs in Murray State and Belmont who have established legacies, who you're looking at NBA rosters and you're seeing student athletes who played at Belmont, who played at Murray State. You look at the villages that they have built, their fan bases, and they're both within 3 and 4 hours or 4.5 hours of St. Louis. So they have a chance to impact our championship. I'm not sure we at that time could have selected 3 better institutions to join our conference. And we're extremely grateful that they're with us. And, I don't want to in any way not state how also the leadership that they have on their campuses, from their presidents and chancellors to their athletic directors to their coaches, how much that has impacted and improved the Valley.
All right, Jeff, the next thing I'm worried about, the tournament changing. Like, come on, it's the one thing the NCAA does great, and they haven't screwed it up. And don't screw it up. And I'm worried. I'm worried. I'm hearing about Greg Sankey, and it feels like all the big boys want is all the big boys to be in the NCAA tournament because it's more money for them. My take is we know what the best thing about the tournament is. It's that first weekend. It's the upsets, whether it's Valpo years ago with Bryce Drew, whatever it is, right? Even my alma mater, Arizona, losing 3 out of 4 years to Santa Clara and East Tennessee State, and it was tough for me. But again, that's what makes the tournament great. Are you as concerned as I am about this thing, changing?
No, actually, not, Jeff, because I'm on men's basketball oversight committee. I'm also on the Division I Council. That conversation has not percolated up to us about that type of separation. I think there's been maybe some legitimate conversations about separation when it comes to football, but I kind of think people have an understanding that the tether that exists in Division I is all about women's and men's basketball. And I think there's an understanding of the importance of maintaining that arrangement. Where I do think there is conversation about changing the tournament is the expansion of the tournament. I make no bones that the Missouri Valley Conference is in favor of seeing the tournament expand. Now, again, I don't think it needs to expand to 108 or 96. And I think we all understand there's logistics involved here that need to be taken into account. But I do think when you've got close to 360 institutions competing for a limited number of spots. And I also think the variance when you start talking about, and I'm just going to stay in the at-large space, when you're talking about, hey, who's number 30 and who's 40, or who's number 30 and who's 45, I think that variance has shrunk. And so I would like to see, maybe 4 or 8 more schools added, because I think there are probably 4 or 8 more schools who are truly deserving of playing in that event.
My whole thought, and I've said it over and over, is the play-in. Do a play-in. Do like the final 8, from the power leagues, play the final 8 in from the non-power leagues, and the winners advance. Because that's always – right? It's always a question mark. Indiana State, right? That was one of them last year. Did they deserve to get in? Well, let them play it'll be like the 12th place team from the ACC now that they'll be talking about getting in.
Yeah,
let those teams play.
Yeah. I'm not so much sure that I would, make some type of declaration between Power or A4 or others. I want to preserve the AQs. I think if you go through the trials of tribulation of winning a conference regular season or winning a championship, depending on how your conference decides to send people to the NCAA tournament, I want to hold that. I want to continue to value that. I think if you're talking about play-ins or we're talking about adding teams, my hope would be those would be at-larges who would have to figure out, quote unquote, how to play that they're still playing on the weekend. Okay. Those would be the teams that if you're looking at Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it would be at-large teams playing on Tuesday and Wednesdays, and automatic qualifiers would continue to hold their space and feel like they are, for lack of a way of saying it, truly in the tournament.
I like that. Your league, like so many, got hit with NIL and transfers, right? The high majors coming down and, taking the best players because, frankly, they have more money. I know it's got to be a huge discussion point in your league meetings among your coaches. How do we have more retention? I don't know. What can you do other than raise more money on each?
Well, it's a conversation, Jeff, but it's not a huge conversation because what you just stated. Because I'll go back to 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago we didn't have one of our greatest seasons, and I think our overall metric we were ranked 15th nationally, and we lost a bunch of players in the portal. And then the following season, we finished 10th. Because the coaches and the administrators understood the importance of being able to replenish. So, yeah, we may lose a student athlete to a A4 conference, but we may get a student athlete from an A4 conference who's looking to have a better experience. Or we may get an athlete from a conference that may be somewhat metrically below us who's looking to have a better experience. So I think it's a little bit of a trade-out. Okay, I think first our coaches have embraced NIL. We understand that it's important. We understand it's an important part of us being successful. And it's something that in many ways is long overdue. Okay, so we embrace that concept. We embrace that ideology. But I think what we also understand is that we're going to do what we need to do to be as good as we can be every year. And it's kind of like being a general manager. It may mean taking a transfer. It may be that we're doing a great job in the development of the student athletes that we have on campus. It may mean going to Europe, but our programs, because of the commitments that they've made from their coaches to their facilities, to their communities, we are always going to be vibrant and we are always going to be very good in this sport. The names may change to protect the innocent, but Valley basketball is always going to be very special.
All right. Well, listen, appreciate it, Jeff. Really, really good to have you on. Really good to have the partnership this year with the Valley and Field of 68. We love doing this. Again, can't wait to see what the league does this season. And I still can't believe you went over the dark side.
Well, appreciate you of you, Jeff. We've known each other a long time. We're glad to be involved with your group. It's going to be a fantastic relationship, and looking forward to talking Valley basketball for the next few months.
You got it. There you have it. Commissioner Jeff Jackson joining us here on the Field of 68, Missouri Valley Media Day.
And now we'd like to welcome in Belmont head coach Casey Alexander here on Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68. And Casey, it's good to hear from you, man. You're heading into year 3 as a member of the Missouri Valley Conference. What have you learned in these past 2 seasons now that the Bruins are playing in a different league?
Yeah, we've learned a lot. First of all, I love it. I mean, it's an awesome league. Had really high expectations for it walking into it, and it has not disappointed in any way. I mean, it's a basketball-centric league, as you guys know. Great traditions in this league, a lot of expectations from program to program, and so it's been a lot of fun. We've got some work left to do for sure, but we're getting closer.
So let's give Casey his props on its intro here, Rob. And one of just 6 coaches to win 20 games 8 straight years. I mean, the company is ridiculous, right? Bill Self, Kelvin Sampson, Greg McDermott, Mark Few, Dan Altman, Casey Alexander. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. All right, I want to hit you with one. I didn't call you, but I was in Nashville recently. Quick stop with my daughter celebrating her 21st birthday. So we hit Broadway. I want to know your favorite spot on Broadway, because it's the first time I've been to Nashville in, 15 years. It's insane over there.
It is insane, and increasingly more and more insane as the days pass. But all right, so I'm 52 years old. I've lived here for 50 years, and so Tootsie's is easily my favorite place on Broadway. It's the original. I'm not one of you young bucks that shows up at all the hot places. I'm the guy that goes.
We did Kid Rock's place. We did Kid Rock's place. I'm kind of more of a rock guy than a country guy, so we did both. But I like Kid Rock's spot.
There's a lot of good places down there. You can't go wrong, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of good music down there as well. I want to hit you on the way that the portal kind of treated you guys, right? Like, I think that there's a difficult balance when you're a program like Belmont that can attract some really good players coming out of high school and really good transfers looking for maybe a second opportunity. But there's also the risk where you get them in for 2 years and they're so good that one of the big boys up at a higher level is going to come in and put a number on the table that is too high for them to say no to. How do you balance being a place where you can get players like that while also continuing to develop your program with guys that are 2, 3, 4 year players?
Yeah, well, we're going to continue to sign good high school players, we hope, and guys that are, good enough after their first year or two to play at the highest level and make the kind of money that our guys did. But I think what we learned more than anything is they can't be our stars, and not from me deliberately, not allowing them to play or have those roles. We just have to have some older guys and more experience, and some guys that have been around that are also significant contributors. I think that was the unique part about our team last year with Cade Tyson, Jacoby Gillespie, and Malik Dia, who are all 3 sophomores and all-conference players, is that they were our best 3 players.
The good thing is you didn't have any hair before last offseason, Casey, because if you did, you would have lost. I mean, it's true, though. Think about it. Who else watched arguably their 3 best players hit the portal, and again, for a lot more money? There's not much you can really do these days. Have you kind of bought into – I've talked to some coaches, and they're like, you know what? Now I'm almost recruiting kids and telling them, hey, we're going to recruit you. Hopefully you'll play well here, and ultimately we're going to help you get to that next level and make more money. It sounds awful to me, but like, how have you handled that?
Yeah, I understand that scenario, but no, we have not. We are not treating our recruiting or changing our philosophy to that. We're going to recruit the best players we can that fit Belmont, give them the best experience that we can, win a lot of games, and then let the chips fall where they may. But that's not something that we're actively seeking out. it's the reality of where we are in recruiting that it's probably going to happen more times than not, but we're not going to surrender to that just yet.
Well, let's talk about what you do have on your roster, because you brought in some transfers that Belmont fans should definitely be excited about. We watched Brody Peoples play last year for Liberty at the Field of 68 tip-off down in Boca Raton against FAU. He's a player. Jonathan Pierre is a guy from Nova Southeastern who won a national championship in 2023. Fun fact, Casey, he was the only guy in D2 6'9" or taller that had more than 100 assists that year that they won the championship. Aiden Noyes, a guy from Richmond who started their first 7 games before an elbow injury. But the guy that I'm really excited about, and I think that you're excited about too, because you said on the record you think he can lead the nation in assists, is Carter Witt, a transfer from Wake Forest transfer that ended up at Furman last season and is now a member of your program. Break down his game for me, and what can Belmont fans expect to see from him?
Yeah, I want him to lead the country in assists. I don't know if he can or not, but that's what I want from him. And he is an exceptional passer when he stays in his lane, and that's really what he's focusing on, is trying to set other guys up. Then he's a really, really dynamic player. We've been extremely pleased with what he's brought to the table. And I do think that, with increased minutes, increased role, all of these guys, anybody that's in the portal, is probably going to play better, and I would expect that from Carter. He was in a tough spot at Furman. Furman's a tremendous program, and that's probably, when you mention those guys individually, I think what goes along with that is if you look at the programs they come from, they are very, very similar to Belmont as far as winning and just also style of play. Nova Southeastern being a little bit of an outlier, but they've won at the highest of levels. So collectively, we brought in some guys that, can plug and play, not because of their extreme talent, but because they really fit who we are.
What are you expecting out of Isaiah Walker? Obviously he comes back, leading returning scorer. He's got to take a jump, doesn't he? I mean, he's kind of the guy that you return that knows the program, knows what to expect from you. You know what to expect from him. What type of jump are you expecting from him?
Yeah, Zay's old school Belmont. I mean, he's the guy, the kind of guy that made our program what it is. Guys that were here for 4 or 5 years, developed over time, saw increasing roles. And that's not just role players. I mean, that's what Ben Shepherd did, and he turned into a first-round pick. That's what Dylan Windler did, and he turned into a first-round pick. And I'm not predicting Isaiah is going to be a first-round pick, but I do expect for him to take another step and to be more impactful on both ends of the floor in more ways than just scoring and, and rebounding. I think he'll be a great leader for us. He gives us the experience and kind of the Belmont factor that we need so desperately.
I want to circle back to Jonathan Pierre just because I think that he feels like the kind of guy that brings a different dynamic in terms of his length, in terms of some of the versatility that he can bring. How do you plan on using him, and what have you seen from him since you've gotten him on campus?
Yeah, I didn't know that assist stat that you threw out there just a minute ago, but I'm not surprised at all. I mean, he is remarkably talented passer, sees the floor. You can put him in ball screens if you want. He can read the defense very, very well. And I think the versatility that you also mentioned is really what his key is. He has legitimate size. He's 6'9". He's as good of a standing shooter as we probably have on our team. He works on that very, very hard. And he can play multiple positions. And so he's a weapon that will be very useful for us in a lot of different ways.
All right, we're going to play a little game here, a little rapid fire game. All right. First, which do you like the most out of these 3 things? I know you love all 3. Dill pickle sunflower seeds, chicken wings, or the Chicago Cubs. Rank them.
I like a 1:20 Friday afternoon start at Wrigley Field where I can take my dill pickle seeds and then I'll go to bleachers when the game is over to get my wings.
That's a good day. Hey, that is a hell of a day, is it not? Especially if the Cubs win.
Maybe an old style in there.
All right. Who is the coach that you are most mistaken for when you walk around the Final Four, any NABC convention or whatnot? That's
a good question. I get mistaken for our soccer coach on campus all the time, or the other way around. I don't know. I'm thinking about all the ball guys. First of all, I keep a low profile when I go to the Final Four, So the guys that come to mind immediately are Randy Bennett, even though he's way older than me. He's old.
It's just the bald factor, right?
Crotchety and all that stuff. But I don't know. You guys have a better guess than I do.
Josh Schertz. Josh Schertz was the
Definitely.
name that I was told.
I met Josh at midcourt before our game at Indiana State when they pounded us by about 30 last year. And we kind of laughed about that. I said, man, I can see the resemblance here, but the truth is I tower over Josh Schertz. He's like, I'm 5'8", and he's 5'0", and so we're not the same.
All right, the last one. I've been told that nobody is safe around the office, that you will jump out and scare the heck out of people. Give me kind of an example of when you've gotten somebody really good, whether it's a player, a staff member, it could be anybody, your wife.
I'm gonna go way back to when I was a player at Belmont, and I walked out of my room at about 3 a.m. to go to the restroom. It was one of those late night, got to go take a pee kind of situations. And a teammate in the room next door was just ahead of me. I saw him go into the restroom just ahead of me. And so I immediately went into his room. He was slept on the top bunk of the bunk beds. I got up in the crevice of the bunk bed. Lights are off. All he did was think he was going to the restroom to pee and come back and go back to sleep. And so he jumped on that bed in the middle of the night, and I got him, and it was awesome. Awesome.
That's a good one.
You live for moments like that. Yeah, you should live for
and
moments.
Nobody's safe now? I mean, honestly, you'll get people now all the time? Or no?
I go easy on the women. I try hard not to scare the women around the office and so forth, just trying to show some level of maturity, but players, staff, guys like that.
Get Ayers for me.
Oh, they're so
easy.
Do me a
favor, get Ayers for me.
He's old. I mean, it could be scary if I got him, in a significant kind of way, because he's getting old.
The last thing we need, Casey, is you giving Goodman ideas on how to mess with people. Listen, we appreciate you being here on Missouri Valley Media Day. We'll be back with more coverage of your favorite college basketball conference coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68, and we're thrilled to be joined now by Bradley head coach Brian Wardle. And Brian, you are the lucky recipient of the single Missouri Valley All-Conference player that is returning to school this season. Duke Dean, he's back. Talk to me a little bit about how Duke is, or how good he's been this summer. But I also want to know, how difficult is it when you're in a conference where all of the good players end up heading off to either graduate or a bigger league after the season? Like, this turnover is not something that feels all that sustainable.
Well, first, thanks for having me on, guys. I always enjoy your show. It's different. College basketball is different nowadays. And you obviously see with the Valley, we're a very good league. I think we were 10th ranked in the net last year, and we got really good players. And so we got to do a great job as coaches now in this new age of college basketball of raising our NIL and trying to keep our players. And having Duke Dean back is huge. I mean, he's one of the best leaders I've ever had, and I've had some great ones in my head coaching career, but he's probably the best leader I've ever had. He's a great teammate. He's a smart player, hard worker. Everything you want in your best player, he has. I mean, you can coach him hard. He holds himself accountable, holds his teammates accountable. And so to have him back, that is a big advantage. And we're trying to make the most of it this offseason with him here. And guys like Darius Hannah and Christian Davis and other guys that we have coming back, and Zeke Montgomery joining us again. So we got a little bit of continuity compared to some teams in our league, and we got to use that to our advantage for sure.
Hey, Wardle, what was the conversation like with Duke? Because, again, I mean, obviously NIL is going to be a little bit of a component, but what was that conversation like? And after watching so many other guys within the league transfer, not just this year, but, last year as well, were you surprised?
Not necessarily. The NIL talk, Jeff, Rob, you guys know it's coming up. I mean, it's a conversation you have to embrace as a coach in recruiting and retaining your players. It is a conversation you got to be prepared for and do your due diligence as a head coach, in my opinion, of making sure that you can fundraise and have money to support your student athletes so you can be competitive and contend for a championship. Because ultimately we want to put a contender on the floor at Carver Arena. Everybody does. And you want to have an opportunity, chance to win it. And Duke loves Peoria. Peoria has embraced Duke. It is a basketball city, as you guys know. And he's built some really strong relationships on campus with his teammates, with the staff. And I think that was huge to get him. But yeah, we probably got him on discount, to be quite honest. I mean, he probably could have gone in the market and made more money, but would his role be as big? Would he have the ownership in the program? Would he have the teammates around him? Would he have the community loving him and supporting him? I mean, there is something still about that I think young men and women and athletes want. And we have that here in Peoria, and Duke knows that.
So you end up bringing back about 6 of your top 8 guys, and just kind of looking at what your projected rotation could be. The majority of those guys are going to be either players that are coming back from last season, or one of the 2 Division I transfers that you have is a guy that's coming back to the program. You have as much continuity and kind of in-house knowledge of what you guys want to do in terms of the coaching staff of anybody in this league. What kind of advantage does that give you at this point in the season?
Well, you hope it does. I mean, I hope you're maybe a few steps ahead of your competition and what you've implemented in workouts already, where you are as a team. But you have to keep getting better. So my challenge is to keep our competitive stamina high, I call it. Like, anyone can compete and have fun right now this time of year, but you have to stay competitive and keep your team excited to compete and play and work and train all year round. And so that's my challenge in the staffs, is to keep that going. But I think we would have maybe a little bit of advantage right now and where we're at. I don't know. But I like where we're at. I love the people we brought into the program. I think that is the huge thing that we've learned in portal recruiting is you got to find the fit that fits your locker room, guys that like each other, that get along, that spend time together, because, it's speed dating in the spring. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get them here. And I thought we did a much better job of just recruiting guys that really fit our culture, fit in the locker room with the Duke, the Dariuses, the Christians, the Metas, the Almars, the Birches. So I thought we brought good guys into that locker room that are unselfish and want to win. And I think that's hopefully going to help us as we move forward.
All right. So when you were hired at Green Bay, how old were you as a head coach? Were you 30? Were you even 30?
30, yeah, 30 years old.
30.
30, yep.
Okay.
Young.
So you were 30. Now you're an old
45.
44. Yeah, 45.
Yeah.
You're old.
Almost 45. So this is my 15th year as a head coach.
You look good though. You still look
Jeff.
30.
I haven't got too many grays. This beard I got going, the gray will come out, Jeff. It will come out if I grow out the beard. But it's been a cool ride, to just have longevity in this business, to have consistency and continuity on my staff has been huge. And I have a great boss in Chris Reynolds, my athletic director, and he's helped support me at Bradley and keep my staff intact for the most part and help develop young coaches. And so that's huge. I mean, the people and the city that you live in, and I've raised 3 kids. I got 3 kids, 1 in college now and 1 in high school and 1 in middle school. So it's been really fun to be in one spot and help build a program. But I've learned a lot. I've grown. I still think
what's the biggest thing, Brian? If I said the biggest thing, other than the fact that, you don't move quite as quickly as you probably did.
I don't play. I'm retired.
All right, there you go. What's the biggest thing that's changed for you?
Oh, patience. I just think patience. You learn that as a parent, but you definitely learn that as a coach. I think having kids helps you as a coach, to be quite honest. Being efficient with practice, planning, like we were talking about, I'm not starting practice today. I'm starting it a week, down the line. I don't want to wear my guys out. I want to be efficient in practice and be smart and have a plan and have progression as we move forward. I think practice, how you set up practice and how you practice is so critical in a program in winning. I've learned that over the years to be more efficient and better there. Listen better. I've become a better listener. And you just know that you don't know that you don't know. I mean, I always say there's 2 types of coaches. Those who are humble and those who are about to be. And I've been humbled so many times in my career that I think that's helped me grow.
So one of the players that you did lose this offseason was Malivi Leons, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Missouri Valley. How do you how do you replace that, right? Like it's when you think about scoring, it's like this guy's going to get shots here now, and this guy's going to get shots here now. Maybe we'll have this guy play a bigger role. But I've always felt like when you lose one of these elite defenders, you can't just find a replacement for what a guy like him does. So is it by committee? Is it you're going to try to tweak some things? Is it, you send up a couple Hail Marys and hope you can figure it out? Like, how do you replace a guy like that?
A little bit of all that, Rob. Honestly, it's you're spot on though. It's funny that you brought that up because a lot of people, have been talking about, oh, we have players coming back, yada yada. But we lost our two best defenders in Malavai Leons and Connor Hickman, who went to Cincinnati as a senior for his last year. And I love Hick, and we're still close to this day. And I love Malavai, but both were really good on-ball defenders. They were tough. They were consistent. And Malavai just disrupted games on the defensive end, whether it's steals, deflections, blocks. His motor never stopped. He's with OKC right now, the Thunder, in training camp this fall. So, we're hoping he can, make a push to make it to the league one day. But he's a tremendous guy and an unbelievably consistent with his work ethic and his motor. And you miss that. You do. And so defensively, there's some concerns right now for us. Honestly, I've told the team that. I've challenged them on ball defense, getting through screens. We got to get better with that. So we do have, just like everybody, some weaknesses that we got to try to cover up and improve on before games start.
Well, you guys were, you were the best defensive team in the league last year. You know what you're getting out of Duke. You know what you're getting out of Darius for the most part. You know what you're getting out of Christian. Who has surprised you so far this past offseason that maybe you didn't expect to have this strong of it might be a new guy?
I think Almar Atlison, he was a freshman for us last year, 6'8" sniper, can really spread the floor. Shooting is so valuable, as you guys know, and you've seen the game progress in spreading the floor out and making plays. Almar's gotten better. His body's gotten better. He came back from his national team. He had a really good summer in his Icelandic national team. He's been playing very well for us. Amat Jonovic, our Serbian, 7'1", 260. He's gotten better. You're going to see him impact us a lot with his physicality and his size. There's not many guys in the Valley like him, so we got to utilize him and keep getting him better. Zeke Montgomery, obviously we know what Zeke is, but I think he's gotten a little bit better, and he's just a 6'6" playmaking guard for us, which we needed last year. It was kind of our missing piece, I thought, to our team, and we having him back is huge with Hick gone and Malavai gone. But then, Demarion Birch is another. He's a sophomore. I had two freshmen last year play a big role for us, and both those guys have gotten stronger, more mature, more consistent, and I think they're going to play, a fun role for us this year.
I wanted to ask you about Almar because he played with, was it the U22s that he played with Iceland?
Under 20 Icelandic team, yeah.
The U20 team. Okay, so when you go and you have a guy like that ends up playing with their national team and maybe some international competitions, is that a good thing to get them in a maybe a different system, a different offense, maybe do different things defensively, or is it something where they come back and some of the things that you've been drilling throughout the year, maybe they've picked up some habits for something? Like, I've always been curious what happens when you have a guy that leaves for a summer, goes and plays with a different coaching staff and a different team, and then you bring him back and try to get him back into what you guys do.
Yeah, and we've had our fair share of international guys here at Bradley, and it's worked out really well for us. But I might have a different mindset than most coaches, Rob. Honestly, I like it. I want them to go play for their national team. I think it's good to play a different style in the off season. These guys they're playing high level players. They're getting coached at a high level, and it might be a different system, but anytime the ball is in their hands and they're in the gym and they're competing, it's a positive thing in my mind. Sure, they come back usually physically. They're not as strong as our guys because they've been in the weight room 4 days a week all summer and lifting and training, and that's kind of bigger over here in the States than it is overseas. But basketball-wise, Almar picks things up pretty quickly. He transitions pretty fast. He's a high IQ, high field player like most international guys are. So it really doesn't take them long. But I would say, to answer your question specifically, the physical side of things, they might lose a little weight or a little strength. You got to get that back on them pretty quick.
All right, Wardle, the biggest question, the final one for me. How worried are you about Caleb Williams right now? That's what I want to know.
Hey, Jeff, I'm a diehard Bears fan. I grew up with a Walter Payton jersey on my back when I was a kid, and McMahon. And I watched the game yesterday. You know, my kids are into it. My wife's in fantasy, so everybody loves NFL in our house. And he showed signs yesterday, Jeff. I got excited. You know, I always joke. I say when I recruited,
the
when I took
silver
over
lining,
Bradley,
the silver lining
yeah,
here. Okay,
it is.
okay.
But when I always say as a coach, like I look at it differently than fans. I coach a program, building a program. When I took over Bradley, I signed a kid who's on a young man who's on my staff now, Darryl Brown Jr. out of Memphis, Tennessee, DB. Like freshman year, when you hand the ball over to a point guard, Kiefer Sykes did it for me at Green Bay. You want to see some big games. You want to see them take over a game or two and win you some games so that you know, hey, I can build a program around this guy. This is my guy. I'm all in on him. Let's develop him. Let's get him better. I think you're going to see that with Caleb. I think he's going to have some big games. I think he can throw it. I'm not that Bears fan that's going to lose my mind just yet, but I think you're going to see that, and it's a guy you can build around for sure. But I'm excited to see it, and hopefully we can get some wins because Chicago sport pro teams, we need some wins this year. It could be a rough year for us.
It's not great right now.
Yeah, with you.
So on NFL Sundays, if you have the whole family playing fantasy, right? But you guys are diehard Bears fans, and you want to, are you a red zone household? Or are you just
they're not all Bears fans? They're not all.
No,
Bears
they're not
fans.
all bands. Rob, this is very important. My wife would be very mad at you for saying that. So my wife was born in Wisconsin. We met at Marquette. She played soccer. I was coaching in Green Bay. I was an assistant under Todd Kowalczyk for 5 years. Then I took over for 5. I was there 10 years. I had all 3 of my kids in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So they're all Packer fans, the whole house. So you got to imagine.
How did you let this happen?
I got 4 Packer. I don't know. It's awful. My dad never understood it. My mom coming in, like, how could this be? How could this happen? But I got 4 Packer fans and 1 Bears fans, but they've had bragging rights on me for so long. They give me a hard time. You know, they're sitting there, you know, Jordan Love's out and they're winning with a backup. And they're like, look at what the Packers can do with their quarterbacks. Why can't the Bears ever do that? You know, they give me a hard time all the time. But it's a big sports house. We love football. We love soccer too. And we're a very competitive group in the Wardle household, put it that way.
Well, you are a brave man to admit this publicly. I will say that, because if I was the father of a recruit, right, and you told me that you weren't even able to coach up your children to be Bears fans, then I don't know, man. That's a red flag right there. That's a concern.
That's a good point. Let's not air this part. Let's edit this out.
All right. Listen, Brian, congratulations, man. Best of luck this season. We appreciate you being here. We'll be back with more of the Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68 coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day, and we are now joined by another one of the new faces in the conference this year, Ben McCollum. Ben, you are taking over at Drake, but before we do that, I want to rewind a little bit. I don't know how many people know this. I'm sure there's a lot of fans of Drake that realize what you were able to do and what you were able to accomplish at the Division II level, 4 national titles. I'm assuming that at some point at Northwest Missouri State, you had other interests from other universities, from other programs trying to hire you. Why Drake? Why now? Why was this the opportunity that got you to make the jump up to the Division I level?
Yeah, I think for me the big thing was, can you win first place consistently? Meaning, do you have the resources to be able to do that? And then making sure that my family was comfortable with the move as well. So it was twofold, you know, and in today's world, you need to make sure that you have NIL, you need to make sure that your budget is appropriate, and it is here. You know, obviously they've got really good NIL, got really good resources, and so you're able to have an opportunity to finish first place. The other part of that is my family. I'm from Iowa originally, and so it's home essentially. And you know, with the recent success that Coach DeVries had, they have a history now, and so you're able to recruit to that as well. So it was just the perfect mix of a lot of things, and the right time as well. We had some kids graduating at my old school, and then we had 5th year and 6th year kids that were coming back. So it helped to be able to bring them with to your next stop, to be able to establish that culture right away.
Ben, describe your coaching style and your system, and if your system has changed over the years, has evolved. Describe that, and for people that don't really know a ton about you coming from the Division II ranks.
Yeah, so coaching style wise, we've been super efficient offensively, and I think that's what everyone from the outside would say. I don't know if we've led or been top 5 in the country in efficiency for 6-7 years from an offensive perspective. Run a lot of ball screens, shoot a lot of threes, try not to pass the other team a whole lot, and just it's a very skilled basketball purist style of basketball. Not a ton of set plays, just more freelance, free-flowing offensively. I would actually fancy myself a defensive coach, though. That's what I enjoy coaching, is the toughness, the energy, the enthusiasm of things. And we actually got good offensively because we realized the more we could set our defense, meaning the more we score, the more we could set our defense, the better our half-court defense would be. And so it all added together. And just over time, that's how it became what it is right now.
Yeah, we've seen guys make that jump from the Division II level to the Division I level and have success immediately. First name that comes to mind is Josh Schertz, who won the Missouri Valley last year, his 3rd season after coming from Lincoln Memorial. You've had 2 guys from your Northwest Missouri State program, specifically Ryan Hawkins, who played at Creighton, and Trevor Hudgens, who I believe was with the Rockets for the 22-23 season in the NBA, make the step up to a higher level of basketball and have a good deal of success. You're bringing 4 guys with you, as you mentioned. How do you help them with that transition, going from playing Division II to playing in a league like the Valley?
Yeah, good question. I think so, and we've had even more that have done that. I mean, Xavier Rhodes, who started at Northern Kentucky for their NCAA tournament team. Kind of the list goes on for guys that we've had transfer up, and we've played Josh Schertz quite a bit. And so I've asked him some. Obviously, Grant McCaslin was at Division II for a little bit, and so just kind of asking their feedback. I think that the biggest transition for my players is just 10 through 12 or even 8 through 12, all of them can play. And so the depth of good quality players is greater than there was at Division II. Your all-conference kids in Division II in specific leagues, not all leagues, but in specific leagues, can start in the Valley and be good enough and good players. Obviously Ryan Hawkins was an exceptional player, and then he was an all Big East player at Creighton for his 1 year there. And then Trevor could have played anywhere in the country, Diego Bernard. Like, a lot of these guys are that level of players. It's just your 8, 9, 10 would have trouble playing in the Missouri Valley or Division I. So, just making sure that they're ready every day, which is what they do anyway. Making sure that they're winning their spot consistently. Just all those little things that come along with. But you had to do that at Division II too. We were taking everybody's best shot at Division II as well. So, nothing earth-shattering that's gonna change who they are as people or players.
All right, I'm going to get off topic here a little bit, Ben. And a little birdie told me that over at USA Basketball, there were some pickleball games.
Yeah.
And they involved you, Grant McCaslin, John Shire, Tommy Lloyd. And the same little birdie told me that you did not come out on the winning end of most of these games. Is that true or false? And what happened?
That's 100% accurate. I've never played pickleball. I have now. So I would guess that if we did that again, it might be a problem for them. It was me and John Shire on a team versus Grant and Tommy. And those two, Grant literally has a pickleball court in his house, at his house. And then Tommy's even better than Grant. And so, So we get into the deal, and John, poor John, he had a bad teammate. I'm just a I'm just a hustler. Like, so I'm just going to run around like it's tennis. Well, pickleball is not tennis. And John's like, hey, you got to get up. You got to get up to the net. You got to get up to kept forgetting to get up to the net.
Get to the net.
I didn't even know the rules. And he's like trying to help me. Thankfully, it was him and not Grant, because Grant would have just lost his mind on me and just said, hey, like, we're done. And John was just trying to be really nice about it. Like, he didn't know me quite well enough. So he's like, hey, you really need to get to the net. He's trying to be real positive with me. And I'm like, dude, just yell at me. It's a lot easier that way. Like so that we can
pretend you're Coach K. Right.
I was so mad. And I wanted to play them again and again. And I want to, and you know, this is a public deal. So make sure they understand that I've been practicing and I'm coming for them.
I'm gonna tell Grant. Next time.
Well,
singles.
We'll see if John.
Singles.
We'll see if John will play with me. What's that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I said singles. You versus Grant.
Oh, now that would be. I would have a better chance because you do move around in singles, and it's a little more tennis-ish.
You're not at the net as much.
That's a great plan.
Right. You're definitely not at the net as much in singles. My other thing was, I believe you ran a marathon or tried to run a marathon once. Tell me why only once?
Well, I mean, you could probably figure that out, but yeah, so I trained for one. I've always wanted to run one, and the training was awesome. Like, just the process of getting there, you started to look forward to your runs and kind of that runner's high. And I thought, just from a toughness standpoint, I think a lot of times as a coach, you get to where you demand things of your players and then you won't do them yourself. And so I thought, just from like mentally and emotionally, I thought challenging myself at that kind of level was important, and it was. And I got into the race, and I had trained. I mean, I was going to try to get, I think it was like 3.5 or 4, one of the two, for the marathon, and get into it. And I'm running with I think the 8.5 minute. Like, you have people that race with you that can kind of time you essentially. Well, my phone was off, and so it was calling out my times, but it was calling out at 8.5. Well, I get done with the half marathon, and I'm looking up at the clock, and I'm trying to do the math in my mind, and I'm like, I was running 8-minute miles instead of 8.5-minute miles. Well, they have a thing called bonking, or you hit the wall. So at mile 16, I hit the wall. And I didn't stop running. I ran the entire thing, but I think my last mile, and it was a run, it was like 11-minute mile. And so I went from 8-minute miles for the first 13 miles to like an 11-minute mile. I was done, and my whole body cramped, couldn't move for. It was called Grant right afterwards. Said I finished it, and he just started laughing at how bad it was. But I did it, so it is what it is.
Congrats. Be done with it. That'll be the last time.
Yes, I'm done.
What are your expectations for year one? I mean, the beauty of these days in college basketball is we used to say, like, well, you can't evaluate a guy until year 3 or 4, right? It takes time when they take over a new job, whatever it is, even if they won at the previous spot. Now it's different. I feel like the expectations are different everywhere because, frankly, you can go in the portal, you can reload, you can rebuild quicker. A lot of it's about NIL. What are fair expectations? Have you thought about it? My guess is you're going to give me a coach speak type answer here, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Yeah, I would say I probably would give you that. I understand the expectations, though, and embrace them and like them. I think that when we took over at Division II, obviously it's not Division I, but there was expectations there to be able to perform. The coach before me had been to 10 straight NCAA tournaments. I like that pressure. I like having expectations. I like people wanting you to perform. I think that brings out the best in you. I do also understand that if you focus on external expectations too much, you try to speed up the process, and naturally you don't get the result that you want. And so for us, we're pretty focused on just being the best we can be. And yes, that's coach speak, but it is reality in our program. We've never, through the years of winning championships or whatever, we don't talk about that. It's never, hey, we want to win a national title. Hey, we want to win a conference championship. Hey, we want to play in the NCAA tournament. We just, that's a given. Like, that's your job. Like, yeah, do I want to finish first place? Yeah, that's kind of the goal. Do you want to win the conference tournament? Yeah. Do you want to play in the NCAA tournament? Yeah. Do you want to do these things? Absolutely. But by talking about them doesn't help you get to that point, but helping them understand what you can do daily and the daily habits to get to that point is kind of what we talk about and share quite a bit.
Who has impressed you the most since you've gotten on campus this summer? I know you got 4 guys that are coming with you, but who, now that you are able to work with everybody in this new setting, who has kind of opened your eyes a little bit and made you say like, oh, wow, I think we got something there?
Yeah, quite a few of them, but I guess one that would be more of a kind of shock you one would be our freshman, Isaiah Howard, has had a really good summer. He's one of those kids that was probably on the kids that we've had in the past, like the Trevor Hudgens, the Ryan Hawkins, where he's on an AAU team that probably wasn't recruited as heavily as most, but he's 6'6", he's physically tough. He's just intense. He's active. He does a lot of different things. And in the Valley and specific to like mid-major basketball, those 6'6" wings that can guard multiple positions, there's just not a ton of them. And so him, Tavion Banks, more of a wing for us from Northwest Florida, those kind of athletic wings that play with a level of intensity, a level of like impose your will. Those two have had a really good summer for us at this point.
Following up on that, will you still continue to spend a lot of your time, and did you this past July, in some of those side gyms to try to find, again, you get to the D1 level, maybe from the D2 level, a lot of guys will be like, oh, I'm going to be at the Peach Jam on the main court. I can recruit some of these dudes. Like, how did you approach recruiting high school players this past summer after you got the job?
Yeah, the biggest difference is supply demand. And what I've noticed is there's less supply and a lot more demand. Sometimes the demand is for players that probably aren't even good enough, but they're on the right AAU team. And but it's tricky because you can't just go to the side gyms and expect to like it's not a fairy tale deal, right? You can't just keep going to these side gyms and say, oh, we're going to take this player that no one else likes because no one else likes him. You still have to try to get players that everybody else likes too, right? But still staying grounded in trusting your own eyes and trusting what you actually want is very difficult, because what you see is like 10 Valley schools all for the same kid. And you're like, then you watch him and I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's very good, but surely he is because these 10 people do. And so I think it's still more about trusting your own eyes than it is trying to find a back gym per se, and watching it for yourself and making sure that it fits what you need and what you want, rather than what everybody else wants. And but that supply demand thing is tricky because it's like with social media, it's advertising. That's what it is. Like you go on there and they post these offers and it's like your eye and it goes right to that kid and you're like, oh, let me check this kid out. It's like, okay, maybe he's good enough. If they think he's good enough, then he probably is. And making sure that you stay grounded in that is probably the advantage that you can gain at this level to make sure that you can get enough players and then still takes a couple of the kids that everybody else wants as well. It's just you're not going to get as many of those.
Last one I got for you. Bennett Sturts is a guy coming in. You have, I believe, of the 4 guys that are coming with you, 3 are grad transfers. Bennett's the guy that you will hopefully get a couple of years out and maybe can be kind of a cornerstone for the program. Was it what was the sell like trying to get him to come with you and follow you to Drake? And what are you hoping to get from him as a guy that can kind of set the tone in terms of what the culture is and what the expectations are?
Yeah. So the conversation went, would you like to go with me to Drake? Yeah, that'd be great, coach. That was about it. He's a pretty simple person. So, he went in the portal with the non-contact portal, but for some reason, people must have missed the non-contact piece of that. But and so anyway, he goes in and he ended up coming here, and he's a definite. He was another one of those probably back gym guys that probably is a considerably better player than he, Division II, and that's what we've got was a bunch of mid-major kids, and so he's definitely this level. He helps a lot just from triggering our offense and helping run our offense. He understands where the ball should go consistently, and his game translates because he can shoot, because he can pass, because he can read situations, and because he's 6'4" and strangely athletic. So it definitely helps to have him. All of the other three as well. It sets your culture, because there is people say culture, all that stuff, but for me, it's these guys understand how to work hard. They understand there is work hard, and then there's work hard with intentionality and intensity, and those guys get that. And so they can help some of the guys that might even be a little more talented understand, no, this is the expectation, this is the workload, this is what you're going to do, and we believe in it, and we're going to hold you accountable to it. So he's one that has helped with that, and obviously the other three as well.
You got anything else, Jeff?
No, all good, and it's good to have you in the Division I ranks. We've been hearing about you forever, hearing about how potentially you were going to take this job, that job, whatever. I'm glad you're in the Valley. I'm glad you took a good job at Drake. That again fits you, fits your family, and good luck this season.
Well, thank you, sir. Thanks for having me, fellas. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here. We'll be back with more from Missouri Valley Media Day coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the field of 68. And we are now joined by Evansville head coach David Ragland. Coach, I want to ask you this. If you go back to New Year's Eve on 2019, all the way until the start of last season, you guys won, the Evansville program won a total of 20 games. Last season, you guys win 17 games, which is as big of an improvement as you're going to find at the Division I level. What led to that growth? What led to that program development? What led to that success?
That's an interesting stat. I didn't look at it that way. I knew I was coming to a fan base that was starving for some type of success, and that's the reason behind the starvation. But no, I think a lot of it just had to do with laying down a foundation of what we wanted our culture to look like, our style of play, how we want to play, the type of student athletes that we want on our team, and just how we were going to build what we felt like was going to be a championship level program. But in order to be a championship level program, you have to have building blocks, and to go from quite honestly bad to competitive to good to really good, you have to take certain steps. And I felt like last year we took a step in the right direction, just led by a bunch of guys that had blind faith in our staff and what we were trying to accomplish on the court and honestly off the court, just trying to build the right habits. We're big believers in, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And, we just try to build the right habits to make sure that, guys understand, how you show up to practice, or how you do your schoolwork, or how you are in the community is all important things. And, a lot of small things equate to, a win. And, staying process driven. And our process was to get better every single day with the right mindset helped us to kind of create a level of some, I guess, momentum to get out of bad to competitive and hopefully good.
So you did that last year, and that's obviously the really good news. You need momentum, period. You need momentum. Yeah. You have it. And then you look down and you're like, all right, those fifth-year seniors, gone. Ben goes to, Big Ten school. Bailey goes to Nevada. And there's nothing you can do in some of those cases, right? Like they just have NIL. Like you probably wish Ben good luck in a way. Yeah. Like, hey, you know what? If you're going to make this money, play at the high major level, it is what it is in today's college sports. How difficult is it to have to flip it over again when you get that momentum in year two and start feeling good about the program where you're at, and now you got a completely different cast of characters? Although you've got some guys coming off the bench that I assume will have to be ready for extended roles.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think what collegiate sports were evolving. And anytime you're going to be successful in life, you have to continue to evolve. And you're right. You wish guys like Ben the best of luck. Y'all seen the best of luck. Chuck, Sekou, different guys that helped us, kind of build what we built to this point. You wish them well. And at the end of the day, it's about fit. And it's kind of it's evolved. This program has evolved in the short time that we've been here. When we took over, the stat that you said of the number of wins that we've had when we took over the program, there's not a ton of people lined up to be a part of that program. So you get who get you and who believe in you, and that's the start of it. And then you kind of build on that. I think one thing that was really good for us is we do return 10 guys. You mentioned, the 6 rotation guys that return. Tanner Cuff was an all bench guy that played a ton of minutes. Joshua Hughes was a rotation guy that played a good amount of minutes, going to be a sophomore now. Cameron Hafner, another rotation guy that plays significant minutes, starter minutes, is back in the fold. And then Braylon Jackson and Gitesh and Michael Day all, played minutes throughout the year. And then we have 4 walk-ons that return as well. And one thing that we just had individual meetings and we tell our walk-ons, don't let anyone outside this wall, discredit the impact that you make on our program. You may not play the minutes or score all the points, but in terms of like our culture and how we work and what really impacts winning in a positive way, they have it every day. So in total, we had 10 guys that understand our culture and what we built to this point. And we were so close in a number of games where, we lose at the buzzer to Drake. We lose at the buzzer to Murray State. We play in a number of close games where, 17 can turn to, 20 or 20, whatever. To where, there's no better teacher in life than experience, for our guys that are returning to be able to infuse that with the guys that, have seen the jump that we made, that believe that they can make a positive impact to help us make another jump. That's impactful to your culture and what we're building. So, we just, one thing is what we created and the guys that are coming back. The other part is, as you have a little bit more success, you're able to recruit guys that really fit you and guys that have been productive. And we're able to pick up, 4 transfers, 2 from Division I, 1 from junior college and YA level that we feel will help us, and then 2 really good freshmen that are international kids that we think really fit what we're doing here.
I wanted to ask you about one of those transfers, specifically Connor Turnbull, the guy that I believe you recruited when you were at Butler, correct? And you're going to pair him with Joshua Hughes, who, when we do these like breakout stars, breakout player lists, what I like to look for are freshmen becoming sophomores that were
Yeah.
playing behind someone that was a little bit ahead of them on the depth chart, that were productive in the minutes that they did have. And Josh Hughes checks all of those boxes. Talk to me about your big guys. Talk to me about that front court. Are you excited about it? Because I'm excited about it.
Yeah. No doubt. No, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, it's exciting to see them. You know, they have some abilities about them and qualities about them that you know, a coach can't infuse, and that's height, number one, length, number two, a really good knack and feel offensively. The guys, they both can dribble, pass, shoot. They both have very good instincts defensively, and first off, have an ability to switch on different defenders, and then rim protection. And we want to be a really good defensive team that defends and rebounds. And a lot of that has to do with your anchor, has to do with your front court. And when you have two guys that are 6'10 plus that can move and can protect the paint, the rim, that really, really helps. But Connor, you know, this is essentially feels like my third time recruiting him out of high school. And that went fairly well into Butler. And then after getting let go on Laval's staff, and then getting retained when Thad Mata took over, you know, getting him to stay was another recruiting process. And then once he left, you know, Butler to figure out what he was going to do next, we're able to recruit him again to Evansville. So, you know, I told him, man, like, I recruited you 3 times, and I actually for once get a chance to coach you. So it's been quite the journey, but now we're happy he's here, and I think he's going to be able to provide a lot for us as well, Joshua Hughes.
So I did a little digging on you, Dave, and the best place to dig, the easiest place to dig, was to go to your former boss at Utah State, Craig Smith, and he had a couple things. One of which, he said, make sure you ask Dave about camping. He said, and the first time he went camping. All right, so give me the lowdown. And then there's a fajita story too. The first long his rule about fajitas. But start with camping, and I think it was during COVID, maybe.
Yes, man, you did your homework. That's pretty good stuff. All right, so camping. You know, we went out to Utah, and obviously that was a different experience that I've never been a part of. You know, I've always been in the Midwest, born in the Midwest, went to school in the Midwest. I coached at different places like here in the Midwest, and, you know, Utah State, you know, is more West than, you know, I've ever been. Completely different experience. You know, it's beautiful out there. Very nice people. My family and I had this great idea that we would, you know, make it an adventure and try things we haven't done. Skiing was one of them, and I was one and done with skiing. That was going to end very bad if I continued to do that. The other one was camping, and I was not prepared. I didn't have. I mean, I didn't know that, you know, there's no running water. You know, you're sleeping on essentially the ground. So like I have rocks like in my neck, you know, trying to sleep. It gets extremely cold at night, and there are like wild animals that live, you know, in the
What was your vision? Wait. What was your vision? Like an upscale Marriott or something? Like, I don't know.
I mean,
you thought.
Maybe not upscale, but like just a level below. like KOA. KOA would have been great. You know, I'm thinking, hey man, we're gonna be in a mobile home, maybe. You know, it was an experience, and we made it. We actually got to a point where we started, you know, getting the air mattress and, you know, building fires and, you know, hunting for our food. I'm like, hey man, you know, we can do all this stuff. Like we've evolved as a
Did you do it again once you left Utah? Dave, have you
No,
done it again?
I'm out the game. I retired from camping. I'm done. And then,
we'll
you know, it's
get back
funny
to
about the fajita.
Go ahead.
Fajita. You know, it's so funny because this is one of the first times that, Like Craig and I, we knew each other actually through Greg Lansing. Greg Lansing went to South Dakota. Craig was coaching at South Dakota. So we mutually knew each other, but we had not spent a ton of time with each other prior to me working out there. So we go to eat, like one of the first times we go to eat, and we're at a Mexican restaurant, and I'm not crazy about Mexican food. It's just not my deal. But like the happy medium for me outside of chips and salsa is a fajita. It's hard to mess up a fajita. Well, I get the fajita and I'm sitting here, Craig is sitting right next to me, and like all the fajita smoke is like blowing toward Craig. And he's like next to me, kind of cringed up. And after that, not that time, but we go to get Mexican again. After the second time, I get word that the one thing that Craig doesn't like is fajitas. And I'm like, oh, thanks for the heads up, fellas.
Like Craig's the rule, right?
That's a Craig. Yeah, Craig, he does not. So like now every time I get a fajita, I send him the picture. Like, hey, man, here you go. I ordered your favorite dish.
Next time I see him, I actually did dinner with him. I wish I had known this because I did dinner with him last year in Salt Lake City, and I totally would have went to a Mexican place and ordered a fajita.
Absolutely. I highly recommend it because it is so – he's so uncomfortable. But he didn't tell me till after the second time. But now I know.
Hey, what are realistic expectations for this team? Do you have any idea? Because, again, of the turnover and the new guys, a lot of coaches don't. Do you have a pretty good feel and expectations?
I mean, I think, you said it, a lot of coaches don't because of all the turnover. However, I think the jump that we made and the group that we have, coming in, I do feel like the jump that we made from, dead last to, we're bottom third, upper half of the league. How do you get competitive? How do you get to a point where you can play for championships? Where you have to get, to upper part of the league. And, and I feel like we have an opportunity to do that with our versatility, our competitive edge, and just the approach that we've taken. We're going to continue to be process driven and find a way to be a better version of ourselves daily. But, we also have a goal of, eventually winning championships here and reviving the Story program. That's the reason why we decided to be here at the University of Evansville as a staff and as players. And in order to get there, we have to get to the upper half of the league. And with all the turnover, not only on our roster, but I think with the league, with the coaching changes, with all the players, 26 or 27 starters that are now gone out of the league, there's going to be, some jockeying for position. And, we feel like we have an opportunity to jump toward that top half. And, that's a goal for us. And we're going to work like crazy to ensure that we get there.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you being here on Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68, presented by your favorite campground, the Holiday Inn Express. We'll be back with more coming up right after this. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68, and we are joined now by Illinois Chicago head coach Rob Ehsan. And Rob, I want to ask you this because this is your second go round as being a head coach. The last time you were a head coach was at UAB, and that run ended in March of 2020. And since March of 2020, it feels like everything on planet Earth, not just college athletics, has changed. So now that NIL is a thing, the transfer portal is a thing. How different is it now trying to build a team versus the first time that you were a head coach?
You know what's interesting? In my last day at UAB was Friday the 13th, okay, March 20th, and that was literally the day the NBA shut down. Like everything happened. You know, my strength coach asked me yesterday. He actually was like, you know, Rob, how is it so like it's so much different? How do you do it? And you know, ironically, I was a head coach 5 years ago. The transfer portal was, you didn't have the 1 year transfers, like you didn't have NIL. If you would have told me or any coach 5 years ago, how much money kids are going to be making and how it's going to happen, and it's going to be from the schools in 5 years. I mean, I would have taken the 2,000 to 1 odds, right? And like that would never happen. It's just amazing how things have changed. Beneficially, a job like UIC, I think in the big picture, it helps us because rebuilding a program, if you will, now that's not really a thing. You know, Jeff knows, used to be you get in there and everyone used to be like, hey, he's got to get his guys, he's got to develop them, especially when it's a brand new coach, like, you know, in a program that maybe hasn't had a lot of winning like this one has recently. And nowadays it provides an opportunity for us to compete like in the Valley, near the top of the Valley right away because of the rules and the changes and how we are able to recruit.
All right. So my big question to you is like, how did this happen in a way? Not that it shouldn't, not that you shouldn't have got another chance because you should have, but I didn't expect it at UIC because again, you've worked at Maryland for Gary Williams, Virginia Tech, you went to UAB, you went to Stanford. I was like, if you're going to get another chance, I didn't expect it to be in Chicago in the Midwest.
I'm circling the country. That's what I tell my family. Like I'm one step away from the full circle. You know what, Jeff, the AD here, who's now not our athletic director because he went to George Washington, Mike Lippitz, worked with me at Maryland at the Gary Williams. So we knew each other a long time. I actually was interested. There was some mutual interest the last time the job opened. At UAB, my head assistant, who's now our associate head coach, Kevin Devitt, is from Chicago. He was from Chicago. He's back on staff. We recruited Chicago a ton. I had a few Chicago guys on our UAB team. So there was some familiarity with the region. And what I would say is because of Stanford too, like I have a national background. I'm from California, but I'm not a West Coast guy. You know, I grew up recruiting in the East Coast and in the DMV area. So I think my experiences, I was able to sell to like the search committee that Chicago is one of the best cities in the world. It's one of the best basketball towns in the world. You can attract student athletes from everywhere. You don't have to be from the Midwest. And as we said, rule changes, transfer portal, you can get anybody from anywhere to come to Chicago if they fit what you're doing. And so I think I was able to sell that. And being not from Chicago, ironically, I think kind of helped me as well. We put together a staff that has a ton of Chicago ties, but this is like a worldwide job, if you will. And our team is already made up of guys from all over the world, and something I'm excited about.
You told Blue Ribbon this summer that, quote, I think I'm qualified to interview for an NBA GM job after going through and building this roster. Why?
The first 10 weeks of my job were zero basketball. We're probably roughly 5 hours of individual workouts with 3 returning players or 4 returning players. 2 of them were walk-ons. And literally you're working 16-hour days for 8 straight weeks. And you're putting together a roster of transfer portal guys, graduate transfers, undergrad transfers. You're managing NIL. You're trying to get freshmen. You're trying to balance classes. You're looking at all the analytics. You're recruiting positions. You're shotgunning official visits back to back to back. And it was really like I'd never had this in my career like this. You have your board up there and what guys are being asked for. And these are the guys you can get. And to get this guy, you need money you don't have. And to get this guy, and what does this guy shoot from 3? And how does he fit? And one of our most famous alums is Matt Lloyd, the GM of Minnesota Timberwolves. He's kind of spoke to our staff. Like we've asked his staff. And like when you hear how they operate, I'm like, man, that's what we were doing in a lot of ways for 8 or 9 weeks as a staff, trying to put the pieces together.
I hope Lloyd went into his pocket for you for NIL. If he didn't, let me know. You get 8 Division I transfers, 3 freshmen. You bring back 2 starters. in terms of Phillip and Ethan, and they were like pieces last year.
Yeah.
They weren't they weren't your best players for the program or anything like that. Do you have any feel right now? Like most times at UAB, again, and we talked about this changing culture, you had a feel for, hey, talent wise or whatnot. Do you have any? You don't know the league that well. You don't know most of these players. Are you going in kind of blind a little bit?
I would say a little bit, but I think that my experience as a head coach is drastically helping me right now in this job. And this time, this is what I mean. I can judge what our talent is relative to my UAB teams who are good right there. Maybe a team like a player or two off, and our team as the pieces come together is as good or better than my last UAB team. I think has a chance to be better. And at that time, Conference USA was Middle Tennessee, Kermit Davis, Tim Floyd at UTEP, Jeff Jones at Old Dominion, Rick Stansberry at Western. It was a very similar. My guess is that last year or two, D'Antoni had Marshall going, that the league was slightly better because we've had 5 new coaching changes in the Valley this year. I think historically the Valley may be better slightly than those leagues, but I have experience at this level, this competition. So I feel like I have a good pulse. And I think the best thing that's going to help me with as we navigate this season of not getting too high, not getting too low, our team, I've said this since we've all come together, has a chance to compete at the top of the Valley. And if the pieces fit and guys emerge and we buy into our roles, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, we can be very competitive and put ourselves in a chance to maybe win it.
So you're bringing in a point guard. I think in a situation like this, having a point guard on the floor that you can kind of trust in a what's the prototype coach on the floor kind of a role. And Jordan Mason coming in from Texas State, started 42 games over his 2 years there. What have you seen from him, and how are you going to rely on him to kind of help you out and make sure things are happening that you want?
I think Jordan is one of the guys on our team who's proven double-figure scorer at Texas State. Historically, they've been good, 500 last year, but went to the championship game in the conference tournament. But Jordan played in a slow, and this is the GM part of putting together a roster. Jordan played in a very slow-tempoed team where he averaged good points per game, maybe not as efficient offensively as we wanted to be from shooting. Now we're going to be playing very faster. So you're trying to put together now. Here's a kid where Jordan Mason, you see it all the time. Could he kind of explode here, take a big next step because he's playing in a different system that maybe potentially fits him better? We'll still see, but I think those are the kind of things, not just with Jordan, but a lot of our guys when we're recruiting and putting the roster together that we're betting on. But he's a good player. Like I said, double-figure score, good size, defensive versatility, can do a lot. Has proven at a high level that he can be a good player.
All right, I got a couple things. We're going to go off script a little bit here.
Do it.
And first thing I'm going to ask you for, you work for a legendary coach. Your motto is actually be legendary. You work for a legendary coach in Gary Williams. Gary was, I don't know how I describe Gary. Crazy. I think crazy would probably be one word that would be apt. Give me and you were a young assistant coming up at that point. Give me your favorite Gary Williams story.
You know, the best stories, Jeff, are the ones he doesn't remember, to be honest, because they're in the game and it's so intense and he's saying stuff and I'll never forget. And coach was so good to me, really made my whole career. But we were in a game in the ACC tournament. And I had gone to him second half late in the game, and I'd gone to him with a sub suggestion. Coach, I think we should put in such and such. And I think it was, you might remember this guy. I think it was Dave Neal, legendary, like amazing senior year. Really, honestly, I don't even know if he's a high major player who ended up being an NCAA tournament starter at Maryland. And he turned around and ripped me as hard as you could imagine. Okay. With the words that could not be said on this podcast. He just instantaneously, I go to sit down and literally 10 seconds later, he turns around and says, Dave Neal, go in. And that was, in a weird way, like that was the biggest compliment he could have given me without saying it. And that's just a funny coaching story that first comes to my mind. I told him once to put in a walk-on at the end of the half at Virginia Tech. I work for Seth too, because it was a foul trouble. Vasquez is in foul trouble. Eric Hayes is in foul trouble. And this was a good player. And it's like 30 seconds left. Defensive possession. He puts him in right away. As the guy is in the game, he is going after me. Why did you do that? What are you he's ripping me while the possession's going on. Like, why did we put him in the game? I was like, Coach, I asked you and you put him in. It was those are some of the in-game stories that just truly made Gary legendary, obviously. And such a big influence on my life. So.
All right. Give me a coach who uses more hair gel than you in America. Is there anybody? I would have said Derek Kellogg when he was a head coach would have probably rivaled you.
You know what's funny? I used to tell Jared Haas, if you put gel in your hair, we're going to win. And it was because there was one game at Stanford, Jeff. He's he comes out of he comes into the game and his hair. I'm like, Coach, oh my gosh, you put gel in your hair. And he's like, Rob, I didn't put gel in my hair, but it looked like it. He had just got out of the shower. We went on to win the game. It's like a running joke. Coach, if you wear gel, we're undefeated. And he never really listened to me. So that's a good question. I don't know who. I got to think about that one.
In the media, Jeff Borzello, Dauster.
There we go.
Look at it. It doesn't move. The two of you.
You got to look good, man. You got to look good. Some of us have style. Okay, Goodman. Just listen.
Yeah, I have
a lot of gray hair.
I have a great Field of 68 story. You guys will love. Okay, look, you're fine with me going off script a little bit, right?
Of course.
So
yes, absolutely.
So last year, I tell my son, he's 8 years old, if the Niners go to the Super Bowl, we're going. So I'm thinking we're diehard 49er fans, grew up a 49er fans. So they go to they win the NFC game, right? They're going to the Super Bowl. So I'm like, oh, now I got to make this happen. Vegas, the tickets are way more expensive than I thought. So the whole staff at Stanford's like, hey, are you going to go? And make a long story short, we're playing USC on Saturday at home before the Super Bowl's on Sunday. So I had booked the airplane tickets weeks in advance just in case. Make a long story short, I on Friday, on the night before or the day of the USC game, I go for it. I buy 2 tickets to the Super Bowl for my son. I go to the game. I'm nervous because I just don't feel right. What happens if we lose this game? I have these tickets. I'm going to be gone next day. What if there's a coaches meeting? So I go all in on this and I don't tell anybody. And I literally was it was the one time at Stanford where I was sick in the stomach before the game. I'm like, gosh, this is not good. We come, Isaiah Collier, Boogie Ellis, right? All those guys. It's the Andrew Luck, ironically, is our co-captain of the game, our honorary captain. So we go crazy. School record 19 threes with 2 minutes to go in the game. Literally, we're up 30. I stand up and I walk over to Coach Haas. I said, hey, Coach, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I bought the tickets to the Super Bowl, and I took my son to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas the next day. Talk about a bucket list moment, right? It was a cool weekend. So, yeah.
No, that's one I haven't done yet. I know you're a big Niners fan, and that had to be phenomenal to do with your son. That's what it's all about.
And I realized no kids. Yeah,
I actually grew up a 49ers fan as well. I have it's framed in the basement. It's a Steve Young autographed 8x11 picture with a Jerry Rice autographed 8x11 picture with a Bryant Young autographed 8x11 picture. And the Super Bowl you're talking about, I blocked that out from my memory. I don't think it actually happened. I've been waiting for the replay to show up because I don't think, I think, there are things that happened in that game that we don't need to discuss.
No question. Yeah. Amazing game, though. And you realize no kids go to the Super Bowl, especially in Vegas. Literally, my son was one of 5 kids in the arena, in the stadium. It's so expensive. It's in Vegas. You never think about it. There was literally no kids there except my son. It was a cool moment. So.
All right. Well, Rob, listen, man, we appreciate you being here. It's always fun to catch up with you. And hopefully the next time you are on the Missouri Valley Media Day is going to be after a 49ers Super Bowl win.
Let's go.
So we'll have that coming up soon. Listen, it's been a pleasure. We'll have more from Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68 coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68. And we are joined by Illinois State head coach Ryan Pedon. And Ryan, I'm just going to throw you straight to the Wolves here, man. Last year, you guys finished 348th nationally in three-point shooting. You had 16 to 32 games where you made 5 or fewer threes, and you went out in the portal and you got guys. Bowden Skunberg shoots 34% from 3. Caden Bozer shot 41% from 3. Landon Wolf shot 43% from 3. I don't think that's a coincidence, man. Talk to me about this team and talk to me about what you've built for this season.
Yeah, well, first of all, great being with you guys. And Dauster, thanks for easing into the conversation here. We got right to the meat on the bone. But, yeah, 29.2% from 3. I've tried not to weigh our players down with this, but I've said this time and again this offseason. That's the lowest number in the history of our school since 1986. And that's really goes against what I believe in. I believe in spacing the floor, smart, skilled players, and your ability to shoot separates you, no doubt. Quick stat on that before I get into anything is I went back and looked at the 348th best three-point shooting team via KenPom in the last 10 years. Average wins for that team slotted in that 348 spot was 10.1. And it shows you right there. That gives you proof. We won 15 games, but it gives you real proof that, you know, it's going to be hard to win at a high level or a consistent level, shooting the ball at that percentage. So, yes, to answer your question, we addressed that in the offseason. The guys we've added, I think 3 of the 4 are bona fide shooters. 356 career threes we're adding to our program at a previous rate from their other schools of 39%. So that addressed our problem. In fact, I think it probably overdosed on correcting our problem. And that makes me happy. And I'm looking forward to going to war with these guys.
Hey, Pedon, the official data practice hasn't even started yet, and your voice sounds like you need another package of the CVS cough drops.
Yeah.
What's going on? First of all, tell people how many cough drops you go through in a game generally. Like, what's the over-under?
So you knew – I don't know how you knew that I was a CVS. It has to be CVS too. CVS Wild Cherry cough drops.
Yeah,
and
I might do some – I'm a reporter. I'm a reporter.
Yeah, so that's I'm gonna have to turn to it quickly, but it's odd. I don't think I yell like that in practice, but the combination of getting into practices, the season, and probably has something to do with sleep. Those things all contribute to it. So yeah, I gotta get my.
Hey, why do you go with the knockoff CVS and not the Ludens or Ludens, whatever it's called?
Ludens. Yeah, Ludens. I tried. I've tried to go bougie with the cough drops, and I wasn't. I went to kind of my blue collar roots, and you can get the mega pack with about 5. I think it's 500 count for a little over $4. Yeah.
And what do they last you? 500. How long does 500 last you?
You don't want to know. Yeah, you don't want to know. It probably a week and a half. Yeah.
You have issues.
I think it's the first time.
You're right. I'm well aware of that. So appreciate that.
I think it's the first time the words "I go bougie." Well, I've tried to go bougie with the cough drops. That has ever been said in the history, not just of the Field of 68, but probably the entire internet.
Well, Dauster, when I see you guys, I follow you so much. We got blue collar here with Dauster. He's a grinder, and then you've got bougie with Goodman, and you guys offer the perfect balance there. So I see him, and that's what I think of.
All right, listen,
I'm going to
get back to the. Yeah, I'll get it back on track here. So you do return 3 guys that started at the end of last season.
Yep.
Obviously, Johnny Kinziger was one of the best players, not just freshman, one of the better players in the league last year. How important, and I know you and I talked a little bit in the offseason about this, that you felt like you could really make a jump this year and fight for one of those top spots in the Valley. What's going to be the key for him specifically going from that freshman, making that jump as a sophomore?
Well, sure. It's always a tough challenge for any great player when you're getting the accolades in the offseason. You've got a target on you coming into the next season. That's always a challenge, right? Like all good players have to deal with that. And Johnny emerged last year. I don't think anybody was expecting him to have the kind of year that he ended up having, the second half of the year most especially. Johnny's a special talent. He's got the grit and the toughness that I love. He's a little pit bull. You know, he switches ball screens and he's going to fight you tooth and nail for everything. So he's talented, but those intangibles I think help, make him special. And I love coaching him. I love that he's on our side, and he's a guy that, like a lot of our guys, that Redbird fans identify with. They appreciate that blue collar type of toughness and the real grit that he presents every time he sets foot on the floor.
I wanted to follow up on Bowden. We kind of talked about him a little bit earlier, but he's a guy that he's a fifth-year senior. He had a whole bunch of success at a really good program in North Dakota State. He's a scorer. Like, what have you seen from him this summer? And when you're bringing in a guy that has, he's played 4 years. This is his fifth year of college basketball. Does that ease the transition, kind of getting him? Like, does he kind of know what college basketball is all about at this point? Is that easier for you as a coach?
It can ease the transition. I think all of these cases are different. You guys have seen it. You've seen 1,000-point scorers that go from mid-major to high major that, Marcus Domask, look what he did for Illinois last year. It was amazing. You've also seen 1,000-point scorers go and become eighth men on a high major bench or, to the next school and not really have the impact that they've had at their previous school. So I think every case is different. We look a lot at, what are their motivations, right? Like we do a deep dive when we're recruiting. Like, does it match up what they're looking for and what we need? Because if not, then you're trying to fit a round peg through a square hole. That's not going to be good for either side in the long run. So what I see with Bowden Skunberg is maturity at the top of the list. I know what he can do as a player. We loved watching him on film. We played them last year. Love what he brings to the table in terms of being a basketball player. But his maturity has really stood out to me this summer, to almost to the point that I thought he was sort of playing possum this summer. Like, I was talking with his father a couple days ago, and I said, it was interesting watching him in the summer because he's truly he's a vet. And I think what he's trying to do over the summer is fit in before he stands out. I think all great players see that. You got to be able to fit in before you stand out. And he had a really good summer, but I was encouraging him, man, like, come on, you got to be more aggressive than you've been. And he's figuring things out. He's sort of reading the room. And I think he's got a great understanding of what our team needs as we head into fall practice.
All right. So you are well known for your preparation within the coaching industry. In fact, you're also well known for your marathon film sessions with players. Give me the longest film session you've ever had with a player, and who was it? And honestly, tell me, like, were they nodding off by the end?
I'll say this. There's one that stands out, and it was following – we had a game when I was at Ohio State as an assistant coach. We lost at Michigan State, and it was a close game. We ended up losing, I think, something like 55-43, and it was just a total, like, Big Ten grind. And Dwayne Washington and Luther Muhammad were both, those guys were like running mates, and this was their sophomore year, and they were just coming to be, and they came in, they wanted to watch film, and, we made a pact sort of at that moment, like, we're not ever letting this happen again, like with this kind of performance. And we were in there for a while. I mean, I would tell you probably a couple hours, but those are two guys that are willing. I think it's such an important, facet. I get I probably go on the far end of being extreme at times, maybe with the film. But I just think guys that are students of the game and knowing how young people learn the visual, how important that is for them, I think that can be a separator between a good player and a great player, like just the desire to learn and study film. So yeah. So yeah, it's good. When you've done some more background there, it's good.
How long do you think you would need to spend in the film room with Goodman before he was able to actually be someone that we would call a knower of basketball?
Yeah, well, I mean, with him, you got to start from the very bottom. How to tie in your shoes, showing up. He's a guy I think would show up at practice, walking onto the court with his shirt tail out, shoes untied.
Late,
really doesn't
100% late.
Any of the preparation.
Hey, you know what I could do, Pedon? Hey, Pedon,
what's that?
I could shoot better than 29% from three.
Hey, man.
That is not true. I have video of Goodman shooting a three-pointer. I promise you, Pedon, that is not true.
No, he might be true. I lived through 29.2%, and I think he might be right. So I got to take that one off the chin, Goodman, and we'll keep moving.
All right, last one I got for you. Cameron Barnes, redshirt at Mississippi State last year, 6'10" kid coming in, was a 3-star recruit. He's someone that I kind of circled when I was kind of preparing for the Valley. Is like this kid might be a good fit here. What have you seen from him this summer, and how is he kind of developing into your program?
Yeah, so first of all, Cam's he coming out of high school was a top 150 guy. We've got 2 guys on our roster, 2 of the 3 highest rated recruits in the history of our program are in our locker room now. And Cam's one of those, Cameron Barnes, I'll tell you what, he's an outlier. That's what the word I use is he's an outlier. There's not a whole lot of guys that have his physical gifts in this conference. He has the tools to be great, to be a difference maker. I think where he's at right now and where he can be, hopefully someday soon, we got to chase that every day. We got to shorten that gap and fight to chase that every single day. And, I think such a important part of development and growth with young people is getting them to buy into the process, right? Their own plan for greatness. Cam, how can your star shine its brightest? Well, I know people have been telling you, you can be a pro. You're going to be a pro. You have what it takes to be a pro. But to get to actually be a pro, that takes time. And that takes a lot of hard work and the grit and the resilience and the toughness that's required. I think Cam Barnes has all the tools to do it. He's a wonderful kid, coachable. He's an everyday guy. He's a pup. I think the reality is he's a pup. And we're trying to turn him into a grown man here in a short time as quickly as we can, but not skipping any steps, if that makes sense. Because I think there's some steps that are required for all players, and he's no different. And if he embraces those on a daily basis, year after year after year, and month after month after month, I think you see real progress. And on the back end of this, a really expect.
Well, Pedon, I'm gonna send you some Ludens because I think you might need to step it up a little bit. I don't know if the CBS brand is working well enough. You sound a little hoarse right now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be the bougie, Ludens guy and get you a bag here. So send me your address.
Any gift from you, Goodman, is I would gladly take it. I appreciate you guys. I do want to say thanks for all that you do for college basketball. What you've done here in the last couple of years using your social media platforms. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. And I try to listen to it and take a nugget or two from your conversations or your interviews all the time. And just want to say on behalf of all of us coaches, man, appreciate what you bring to college basketball, and wouldn't be the same without you guys.
Well, Pedon, we appreciate that, man, truly. And hopefully we're going to see you down the road. I need you to land a couple big wins this season so we can get you back on during the year. We can get you on the Field of 68 after dark, live, maybe after a game, so we can hear what that voice sounds like when it's truly been put to work in a big win in the big arena.
That's right.
Appreciate you being here, man. Best of luck this season, and we will be back with more Missouri Valley Media Day content coming right up. And now let me welcome on to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the field of 68. Matthew Graves, who is one of the 5 new head coaches in the Missouri Valley. But Matt, you're not a newcomer to the conference, so to speak. You were boots on the ground the last 3 years as Josh Schertz built this Indiana State program from a team that went 13-20 in year 1 to a team that went 13-7 in the league in year 2 to a 32-win league champ, an NIT finalist, and I'll say it, a national sensation in year 3. What did you learn about being able to kind of flip a program that quickly, and what are you going to take away from working with Josh the last 3 seasons?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to continue to recruit really good players, and I think part of that, especially in the system that we want to continue to play, is having guys that have that corporate knowledge. Coach Schertz would talk about that all the time. And, for example, last year's team, everyone was talking about, you got, 7, 8 new guys to your roster. But when you really boil down to it, we played about 6 guys most of the year. And 4 of those 6 guys were in this system for multiple years. And then you add Isaiah Swope, Ryan Conwell, to that mix, who are obviously very high talented players and skilled players. And, it makes for, a magical group.
All right. So the good news, you got the job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, Jeff. That's great news. These jobs are hard to get. That's great news.
No question. You got another opportunity because you had one at South Alabama and got to kind of learn then. The bad news, if there is obviously the transfer portal hit you guys pretty good. I just saw 2 of your former players down in Austin, Texas, Jason Kent and Julian Larry. Robbie, we know, followed Schertz. Conwell's at Xavier, Swope's at St. Louis as well. I don't know. Your head's had to be spinning. You get this job, and again, it's tough these days. Let's face it. I mean, if you don't have the NIL in place, and I know you didn't a year ago. I know you guys did probably more with less than anybody in the country. But how hard has it been after getting the job, now with the expectations that are at Indiana State because of what you did the last few years?
Well, the one good thing that comes from all this, people are excited. People are interested in Indiana State, and you have kind of reignited the fan base, if you will. There's been pockets of years. Royce Waltman had some good teams. Greg Lansing had some good teams, and being able to get the sustained success that we're trying to get to is our goal. And when you have a fan base that's excited and ready to see more, that puts obviously more pressure, more of an onus on us as a coaching staff to find the right players and get involved with really good players. But our platform that we had in the spring, playing as deep as we did into April, really helped get us in the door with some transfers. And starting on basically May 1st, trying to is not easy with limited NIL resources, but we feel like we were able to piece together, a pretty good team. And, obviously we got a lot of work cut out for us. The Missouri Valley was really hit hard with the transfer portal and, 5 new coaches. So it's going to be a learning curve for a lot of people, but at the same time, we got to really focus on, our team, what we can do and continue to get better and really build off, the excitement that we have here in Terre Haute and the Wabash Valley area.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that because it an interesting situation when you play as long as you guys did. There were only 4 teams that played a basketball game last season after you guys played, and those were the 4 teams in the Final Four. And then you had the coaching change, and then you had to get the job, and then you start diving into, okay, well, we're a month behind schedule. At the same time, you're one of the last 6 teams playing basketball during the season. You're playing national television, big ESPN on a Thursday night, showcasing what you guys can do. So how did that balance kind of strike? Was it more positive having people know who Indiana State is versus, we're kind of playing behind the 8 ball, so to speak?
Well, no, that's a great question. And there's no doubt that, if our season ends, March 15th, just to pick a random date instead of, middle of April, you're going to get an opportunity to be involved with some different types of transfers. There's a couple kids, locally, and I say locally, meaning in the state of Indiana, that went other places that, we would have probably gotten involved with in the transfer portal. But by the time, we were done playing and the coaching search, all that had taken place, they were off the board. And that's part of it. But I don't think I would, I know for a fact I would never trade the experience that we had with our team and because it allowed us a platform, to get involved with some transfers late, but also it really springboarded us into recruiting the 2025s and 2026s, because now what we dreamed about 3 years ago, constant sellout crowds, being able to play in April, we dreamed about that 3 years ago, and now it came to reality. We've got pictures, we've got video, and we can show recruits, if you come to Terre Haute, we get the right mix of guys that really care about the team, that really buy into playing this style of basketball. You can have tremendous amount of success, and we can show that now instead of just dream that.
Matt, is there something coming out of the first stint at South Alabama that, because I've talked to a lot of coaches over the years, and they're like, if I got another one, I would do it differently. Now, again, the times have changed since South Alabama. Now it's NIL. The world's different with the portal. But is there something where you kind of said to yourself, and you'll be steadfast on it, I'm going to do that differently this time around?
I think one of the biggest things for me, the experience part is the biggest thing for me. I was very fortunate as a coach that I spent 12 years at Butler University with, Todd Licklider, Brad Stevens, was around a lot of great people. And part of that, though, you were insulated too. One of my former assistants, kind of joked about, you were in the Butler bubble for so long, you don't know what the real world of coaching is like, dealing with, APR. I had no idea what APR was at Butler University. You didn't have to worry about certain things like that. And so the experience piece, going down there, being a head coach for 5 years, and then, coming to Evansville for a year under Walter McCarty, then going to Xavier for 2 years and being in the Big East and with Coach Steele, and then with Coach Schertz the last 3 years, just the overall experience and being able to be put into different situations, being at different schools, seeing how things are done differently. All of those kind of really added to my toolbox, if you will. And I think that's what's going to make me a better coach this time around, just having different experiences other than the wonderful, great experience I did have at Butler. But you were somewhat insulated, to be real candid.
So you guys last season led the nation in threes. You scored 84.5 points per game. You were top 15 nationally in offensive efficiency, according to KenPom. You were a delight to watch play. How much of that style is going to continue next season under Matthew Graves?
The style is going to be very similar. We're going to try to play really fast. We're going to try to space the floor. We're going to share the basketball. The same concepts will be in place. Obviously, you've got to have the players to execute that system. And we've tried to do our best with where we were on May 1st and what was available in the transfer portal and the high school scene to recruit to that. And I think you got to lay a foundation. It's no different than 3 years ago when we started here. When Josh was, in his first year at Indiana State, and we had to bring in 9 or 10 guys, and you've got to, out of those 9 or 10 guys, you got to find 5 or 6 that, stay with you. And then in year 2, you got to find 4 or 5 more guys. And then ultimately that corporate knowledge builds upon itself, and you got to, piece together the right talent. But ultimately you need 8 or 9 guys that have that corporate knowledge and understand how you want to play, are unselfish. And that's the one thing that, I tell people in this recruiting process. All 5 starters we had last year were all conference, and we had 6 man of the year. So if you buy in, do what you need to do offensively, defensively, and we can carry that over, everyone's going to be successful. And that's the style of play we want to play. We want to coach, but most importantly, it wins, and our fans enjoy, watching that unselfish, team first style of play.
So do you think this year's team, which is, again, a lot of new faces, will have that balance, or has somebody emerged, a guy or two over the summer, that you think you'll kind of gear the offense towards?
No, we will definitely be a strength in numbers. I think we've got several guys that are capable of, averaging anywhere from 8 to 13 points a game. I would be pleasantly surprised if somebody was averaging 16, 17 points a game. I think we've got guys that, last year we played 6 guys, sometimes 7. I think this year it'll be more like 9 guys will get opportunities to play, just because we need to figure out, we've got 9 freshmen and sophomores on this roster, no juniors and 4 seniors. So we're really young. And what we've got to figure out, though, out of those 9 freshmen and sophomore, who is the core group of guys that are going to continue to build with and, stay in our program and for the long term, be big cornerstones for what we're trying to do here in Terre Haute.
Who's going to be wearing the rec specs? Who's going to carry on the legacy of having the goggles?
Oh, shoot. I don't know that anybody's going to be able to do that. Robbie was such a unique and special player, but a funny story, and I can't name the recruit, obviously it would be a violation, but there's a kid we're recruiting that just absolutely loves Robbie and wears the goggles, and we have great film and video to show him this is what it could be like. So hopefully we can use that to our advantage.
All right, so I'm told your greatest skill, Matt, is not coaching. That your greatest skill is actually that you can sign your name while spinning a ball on the eraser part of a pencil. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. That is very true.
Sign the ball. You can sign your name with one hand while you're spinning it with your other hand.
No, it's on the same. The
same hand?
I spin the ball. Ball. I'm holding the pencil in my right hand. The ball is on top of the pencil spinning, and then I'm signing it with that same hand.
Wow, that is impressive.
How did you?
Impressive.
Hold on. How did you? Why do you know you can do that? Like, how did you figure that out?
Rob, that is a great question. So the answer is, in high school, it was in a sociology class, and the teacher challenged us to come up with something that nobody else in the class could do. And I don't know how I came upon just doing that. I mean, I was always in the gym. As a kid growing up in Swit City, there's not much to do. So you're always in the gym and coming up with all kinds of trick shots and doing things. And when you have a key to a gym, it's really special. And probably just sitting there after a workout one day, just kind of messing around, because I always had a pencil in my workouts in high school, because I'd chart my shots and write down makes and misses and all that. I was probably sitting there and just said, hey, I just started spinning the ball and spun it on an eraser, and then it took off from there. So yeah, just that's one of the worthless tricks that I guess I possess.
Hey Rob, do you know that Matt cost me one of maybe the biggest scoops I've ever had in my life? Did you know this? Matt forgets this, I think. So I called Matt probably late June of 2013, and I said, I'm hearing somebody called me and said Brad Stevens is going to the Boston Celtics as a head coach at that point. I said, I've heard it from a couple places now. I don't really believe the source that told me. I just didn't have a lot of faith in. Matt, what do you think? And he's like, there's no way.
Yep.
There's no way he's going to the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll put this thing to bed. I trust Matt. He knows Brad well. And he told me, he's like, I don't know for sure, but my feeling, there's no chance he goes. July 3rd, what happens? The Boston Celtics put out a press release to announce that Brad Stevens was their next head coach. And so you owe me one. You owe me one.
I do. I do owe you one. And the honest truth, and you know Brad, as well, he keeps things close to the vest. And I had no idea. I had no idea to this day.
What was that moment like when you found out? Like, were you like us on, it was like 6 o'clock the night before July 4th. I think I was.
Yeah. You know, what was funny? I can remember exactly what I was doing, where I was at. I was in the Mitchell Center, and I was meeting with my AD, and our offices in the Mitchell Center were down in the basement area. So you got very limited cell service down there. And I was walking out, and all of a sudden my phone just started text message, missed call. And I'm like, oh boy, well, it's like, am I late for dinner, or something happened to my kids, or, what's going on? And it's all these people like, did you hear what happened? And so about 5 minutes later, I ended up, calling Brad on the phone. He said, yep, I, made the leap and, going to the Celtics. So it was, I was really happy for him. And obviously he's done a, tremendous job there, but I was just as surprised as anybody else.
Well, listen, Matt, it's been a pleasure. We appreciate you being here. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys can put together to follow up a season. No pressure at all. You guys just won the Missouri Valley regular season title last year. So good luck following that up in year one as the head coach at Indiana State. We will be back with more Missouri Valley Media Day coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68. And I'm thrilled to be joined now by new and old Missouri State head coach, Cuonzo Martin. Cuonzo, it is the second time that you are.
What are you calling him old for?
He was the old Missouri State coach too, and now he's the new Missouri State coach. I'm setting it up. It's his second time with the program. He is back. Let me ask you this. The last time that you were with Missouri State, you won the 2011 Missouri Valley regular season title. You are back now. How do you get this thing going to the point where you are winning league titles once again?
He had hair then, Rob. He had hair back then.
Boy, you guys crazy. I mean, really, man, I think with anything, like with any team you're building, when you're building a winning program, it's the talent, the tenacity, and I think more than ever, the will to win. I mean, somebody has to win the game, and I don't want to sound like this a cliche statement, but you got to have guys that have a desire to win and compete. There has to be a level of togetherness amongst each other. Whether you're on the court, off the court together, you have to have great relationships. I think that's very important in today's climate. And then we have to have respect for one another. I think that is vital in the approach because with NIL, parents want their children to be successful. Everything is so individualized, and there's nothing wrong with that. We got to have respect for one another. And then we got to generate some leadership, and that comes, in my opinion, through passion and a vision and a commitment. And there's a level of togetherness that goes with all that. But I like where we are right now, and I like our program.
All right, listen, we're happy to have you back in college hoops. I don't know what you're doing the last couple of years. Can you fill me in? What were you doing? Were you sleeping late? Going for long walks with your wife? Give me the Cuonzo Martin daily routine the last couple of years.
My schedule for 2 years, really, and it was all scripted. It was great. It was we get up in the morning before my daughter started driving, so she has her license now. But before she started driving, we'd get up. we take her to school. Then my wife and I, we come back, we walk the dog. And that was about our dog, for some reason, she demands a 2-mile walk every day. She demands that, or she can't function. So it was at least 2-mile walk. And then we bring her back after the walk, and then we would work out together. My wife and I had a homemade weight room in the weight room. We also had a fitness center. So homemade weight room in our garage. And so we work out there. We were down in Florida, Orlando, Florida. And then I would say around 11:30 to noon, we kind of veered off there, whether it's reading, writing. September 23rd of 22, I started writing. So we would do that, and then my wife would do what she was doing. And then obviously we had to pick our daughter up. But then when my daughter got her driver's license, she would drive to school. So my wife and I, we do the same thing. But amongst a lot of other business things and financial situations we would deal with together. But it was always great. But really, man, my day was filled in the morning without question. I had house shoes or sandals, whichever one you called it, swim trunks, and a T-shirt on. And then we go work out. I put sneakers on. But that was my day for 2 years.
So wait, why did you? Okay, so it sounds like a great life, Cuonzo. A great life, yeah. Right? You have money.
It is.
Listen, you coached at Tennessee, Cal, Missouri. You made enough money. I know you're young still. Rob called you old. You're not old. You're young. Why? Why did you want to get back into college basketball at a time in which a lot of coaches want to get out of college basketball?
Great question. I think really for me, it's the joy in coaching and leading young men. And I've always felt like my mission, as coach, you try to win as many games as possible. That part is understood. But I've always felt like my mission is to help a young man to get where he's trying to go, or have him see what he can't see. And growing up in East St. Louis, humble beginnings, but a lot of love, a lot of passion, a lot of people that care for you. I just felt like my mission was to be able to, and my ministry is to be able to help that young man find his way in life. Because oftentimes we can't see. I mean, my mom talked about getting an education. My elementary, high school coaches, those guys talked about getting an education. But what does that really mean? What is the impact of getting a degree? I mean, how can this degree help me in my life? So I think those things are very important. And when I got to Cal Berkeley, it was the first time, and I think in my career, we've graduated 54 out of 55 guys that were seniors. And that's not something I take a tremendous amount of pride in. What I mean by that is they earned it. I didn't earn it. So I don't want to have a trophy saying I did it, because I didn't do the work. But when I got to Cal Berkeley, I realized the impact of not just a degree, but having a successful career. So now as your job as a coach, you spend so many hours with these guys on the court trying to get better, 3-hour practice, extra individual work, weightlifting, and that's all year round, but we don't give them a chance to do internships. So now as a coach, it's like, hold up now. If you're not going to give him a chance to do internships, at least work that phone to get this guy a job to have a successful career when he's done playing. And I felt the impact when I was at Cal Berkeley, the importance of a degree. Everybody talks about it, and you see a young man gets a degree, but coach, did you help him find his way? And I think that's very important for me. So to get back in, and my wife just said, I would say around early February, my wife said, I think you need to get back in. Not that she was tired of it, so don't get me wrong there. She just felt like, she said, I think that's your ministry. I think that's where you find joy in seeing young men be successful.
So you've talked a lot about your family so far in this interview. You have there is a member of the Martin family on this roster. So my question to you is, how much is mom going to play a role in like how you coach him in practice, whether or not he gets playing time, the minutes that he's going to get? Like, are you worried about coming home and getting yelled at because he's not playing 25 minutes a game?
Not at all. But the one thing about my wife, she's the youngest of 5, and she has 4 older brothers. 4 out of 5 of them, 4 of them were Purdue grads. So she understands that. She grew up in humble beginnings as well in Hammond, Indiana. So she's a beautiful soul, a phenomenal lady. She worked in the corporate world for 13 years, but she's been a stay-at-home mom for our last, I guess, man, it's been a long time, 20. But she's done a great job there. But no, because she understands. Now, the same son you're talking about, my son Chase, he has a degree in mechanical engineering from Purdue University, one of the top engineering schools in the world. So he has a degree already. So now in this 5th year, he felt the need to come help his pops out. So that's great. And I'm happy to have him on board, man. He's a phenomenal young man. He's a very intelligent young man. He can see the game.
Yeah, we can tell. We figured that part out.
All those things, man. Just so for me, it's a joy. And like anything, he'll earn what he gets, and he's working very hard. He's a tough, hard-nosed guy. He understands the game, and playing at Purdue has a lot of life lessons he learned on and off the course. So he's been a great asset to our program.
All right. So if I gave you a test, you have 15 new players on this team. We know you know one, your kid, right? You can't screw that one up.
Yes,
How long
yes.
did it take you to learn the entire roster? At what point after you got the job could you have rattled off the entire roster without screwing it up? And not nicknames, like full names, right? Jalen Hampton and Des White and Vince. Like, how long would it taken you?
I mean, that probably took I would say 3 weeks to a month consistently, because what happens is, what I try to do is not only the name, but also where they come from. And in recruiting, you build relationships with families, their parents, and all those things. Now, is that easy? No, but I try to make a commitment, because one thing I've always said to guys, and I really grasped this concept maybe about 10, 12 years ago, because, you know, all these writings come out, different authors write different books, and you start hearing stuff about, well, players, they won't play or perform for you unless they know you care as a coach.
Sure.
Well, I agree to that to an extent, but not to an extreme extent. But what I mean by that, so why don't they get to know me as a coach? Like I say to our guys all the time, you never ask me how my grandmother's doing. You never ask me, what did I get a degree in? So why do I have to know you? I mean, it's a two-way relationship. In order for us to get to grow together, I said, we're in the trenches, we're in the battlefield. Let's get to know each other. So I think it's just as important that you get to know me as well. So again, I don't believe in all that players when they don't. If you don't know them, they won't play. I don't agree with that, because Coach K didn't have to know me to play hard. I was playing hard because I loved the game and I wanted to be a great player, and I listened out of respect to Coach K. I didn't sit back and say, well, I don't think he doesn't like me as much, so I'm not going to play hard. I don't agree with that.
All right, there's two guys specifically I want to ask you about on this roster. The first one is Des White, transfer from Austin Peay, sophomore. You always kind of circle those guys that make that freshman to sophomore leap. What have you seen out of him this summer? And the other one is Mosé Downing Rivers, a national champion, point guard at was it Barton Community College?
Barton.
Yeah, point guard there, averaged 6.6 assists, national champion, 6'6" point guard. What have you seen from those two?
Well, with Des White was a guy I knew at Mizzou, so I started looking at him maybe as a sophomore. What he does, I would consider an elite level shooter without question. He's a guy that can make shots. But the thing that's impressive about him is his work ethic. He works extremely hard, and you say that about a lot of guys, but he works hard. He works at a high level. But he doesn't have workouts where it's kind of 50% casual workout. His workouts at a high level all the time, so it translates in game situations. So you have to give a lot of credit to his brothers. One of his brothers, a college coach that really helped him, but his high school coaches and the people that's been around him, because he has a great work ethic and, again, an elite level shooter, but can do more than shoot the ball. And then Mosé's, 6'5.5", 6'6", physical. Now you're talking about a guy that's probably 210 at the point guard, but a natural point guard, can really see the floor well, big physical guy. He's one of those guys, he should be hovering around elite in defense and defensive player of the year because of how he guards the ball, and his size, his length, his athleticism, and put pressure on the ball handling. He's one of those guys that'll blow up a ball screen, because he's probably just as big and just as physical as any big guy that's setting the ball screen. But I think he has a chance to be great. And the one thing about him, he averaged like almost 6, 7 points a game, 6, 7 rebounds a game. 6 or 7 assists at Barton. So he's a guy that loves the pass. He gets downhill. And I think if there's an improvement with his game, is the consistency of the three-point shot. Not that it's a bad shot, but I think he loves to pass the ball. So what we spend a lot of time with him on is focusing on when that shot is open to take that shot. But he gets downhill and he's physical now, because he can hit big guys and still finish at the rim.
All right, give me the biggest difference from Cuonzo Martin 1.0 at Missouri State and 2.0. The biggest difference in you, because that was your first head job, right? That was younger Cuonzo Martin. Now it's a little bit more seasoned Cuonzo Martin. That's what I will call it, not older.
Yes. I think the most important thing, like we all do, is wisdom. It's wisdom over time, because what happens, and even when I speak behind the scenes and Zoom calls to assistant coaches all the time, when you go from an assistant coach to a head coach, you're never in front of anything. The media, you're always behind the scenes. So you most cases, you never hear an assistant coach talk unless he's talking to a recruit on the phone. So now all of a sudden, you're thrust into the spotlight, the cameras, everything is on you. Now it's magnified with Zoom calls, everything. So you can't run from it. So you have to understand what you're doing, what you're saying as a coach, how you're leading. And I think the other thing is the courage. The courage to to get out of my comfort zone and to not get consumed with somebody else thinks about you. You are who you are, and be confident in that. And I think to grow, I think I've grown in compassion, not that because I've gotten older, but just compassion of what young men go through in today's society with social media.
You're old school. Hey, you were taught to be old school. You were old school, correct?
Yes, and I love that, and I live that, and I think what happens, and we have to give grace and kindness to the word old school, because I think that's a compliment when you say somebody's old school, unless you're mistreating people. I think sometimes people get it misconstrued when they say old school, and that's how people treat and how they talk down to you. This is not this. My old school's teachings, what my grandmother taught me: life lessons, wisdom, spiritual growth, how to become the best version of yourself. That's what I'm about. And it just, but I demand. But what I also say to young guys, if you're in my program, especially in most cases, if you're raised by your mom or even if dad's at home, it's just learn a different form of love. My love is different than your mom. I still love you. Love is love, but it's just different form of love. My accountability is a high level and it's at a premium, because this is what we have to do in order to get where we have to go.
Last thing I got for you, Cuonzo. You got 15 new faces on this roster. You are a Purdue guy. The one thing we know about Purdue guys is culture is important, right? What's the first step in kind of developing that as you take over this new program? You have these new faces. You are a new face to all of these guys that you were bringing. Like, how do you what's the first step to be able to develop that camaraderie?
I think the first thing and the most important thing, once they're in your program, there has to be a commitment. And if you look at the definition of commitment, an agreement or a pledge to do something that you're committed to or in the future. So we got to be committed as a team. That's the first and the most important thing. Let's eliminate how much money you get in NIL, how much your scholarship costs of attendance, all those things, man. Are you committed to do what we need to do, even when things are uncomfortable for you? Are you committed to it? And I think that's very important. And then you have to have a level of respect when adversity hit. Can you maintain it? Because what happens when you first get around each other is joy. You're having a good time. It's a celebration. But all of a sudden, when that ball is tipped, in our first game at Butler on November the 4th, when the referee does this and it throws it up, there are 5 guys on the floor. And that means there's another 8 or 9 that's on the sideline that thought they were starters. How do we handle this when adversity hit, late game situation, when you're not on the floor, when you thought you were a good three-point shooter, but we got 5 guys out there that are better three-point shooters. When you thought you were a good defender, we got 5 guys out there that are three-point good defenders. And then all of a sudden, after the game, as a coaching staff, we go give mom and dad a hug. When in June and July, we gave them a hug. It was a great hug. We laughed and had a great time. Well, now it's so when the ball is tipped and minutes are dispersed, and they didn't look like what you thought, is that hug still the same genuine hug? And I think that's very important. We have to be committed across the board. So my thing is everybody, not just the player, but the family. We all have to be committed to the task at hand.
All right, I got one final one before we let you go. In 92-93, this was Purdue's top 3 scorers. Big Dog, Glenn Robinson, was the leading scorer. He averaged 24 a game. Cuonzo Martin, second, 12 a game. Third, Matt Painter, 8.6 points a game, 4.5 assists a game. All right, listen, give me some dirt on Paint the player, Cuonzo. Give me a story. Give me something of maybe, I don't know, Painter crying in practice, something good that we haven't heard before.
Well, I don't know if I give you something good like that with you, but like Paint was really, so Paint's 6'6", but Paint was really, he was a point guard for us, but he was one of those guys that coach could plug him in 1, 2, or 3. He just fit in because he understood what was going on. He knew what coach wanted on the floor. And Paint was always my roommate in road games, so we had good time, laughs, and all that. But he was really he brought his hard hat to work, and he was one of those guys. The thing that I think that made Paint good, and I think this is something that a lot of young players nowadays struggle with, because again, for example, the NBA still has 450 jobs, maybe hovering around there. It's still the same amount of jobs, but for some reason we think millions of guys can make it. But what happened, Paint understood early that I'm not going to be an NBA player. So let me be the best college player. Let me help these guys, help our team, help the coaching staff. So he understood that piece. That's hard for a lot of young guys nowadays to accept the fact that I'm not going to be an NBA player, but I still got to work like that. So he understood that part at an early age, and that's what made him a good player and a good teammate.
Well, listen, Cuonzo, we appreciate you being here. We are happy that you are back in the world of college basketball, and we will be back with more Missouri Valley Media Day coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the field of 68, and I'm thrilled to be joined by one of our OGs, one of the originals on the field of 68 After Dark. He is in his second tenure at Murray State, and Steve, I hope we never see you in a second tenure at the field of 68. What's going on, man? I'm fired up to have you back on here. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys. First of all, I appreciate you doing this for our league. I think we got one of the top leagues in the country. We were talking about that off air, and just good to see you guys, and really enjoyed my time with you guys in the year I sat out. And but looking forward to this season, and really excited about our group.
How different has it been, Steve? I mean, obviously, when you left us a couple of years ago and took this job, a big reason was because they were going in the Valley, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think you flat out told me if they weren't going to the Valley, you'd probably still be a field of 68. Things have changed so much since you left us. The landscape of college basketball. Again, we talked about it a little bit, of all the guys that are plucked, to be honest, by the high majors because, frankly, they can pay more money. What's been the most difficult adjustment for you trying to figure this thing out as you get, to year 3 of Murray State?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and you touched on it, coming back here was a no-brainer for me in a lot of ways. The relationships, my family's from here, my wife. But going into the Valley gave a brand new challenge. It's the same job, but in a new league with a new challenge, but the same expectations and the same standards. And for me, the new league was extremely challenging because this, without a doubt, is a top 10 league in the country. We talked, I think 17 of our top 18 guys or 17 of the top 20 left in the spring to go high major, and impacted a lot of different rosters there. But a lot of things have changed. You get here, you don't realize, your roster can disappear so quick. And we had one returning guy my first year, and then NIL, obviously the immediate transfer. So many things hit at once. To where now I think we've got our ADs doing a tremendous job in the fundraising department. We've got a blue and gold standard here, which obviously is our collective. That we've got a great team of people and supporters doing a great job there, and we've got our NIL established, and it's doing well. And I think that's really given us a chance to now get our feet on the ground, recruit the guys that we need to compete and challenge. To compete for championships in this league, because whether you're in the OVC or whether in the Missouri Valley, Murray State only expects one thing, and that's to have great players, to win games, and to win in the postseason and win championships. And I understand that more than anybody.
Yeah, you talk about the turnover in the conference. I think it was 12 of the 13 all-league guys that had eligibility remaining have moved on to different programs. But you guys got maybe your two best players back in Jacoby Wood and Nick Ellington. One, how in the world did you manage to pull that off? And two, kind of break down what you've seen from them in the summer and what you expect to get this upcoming season out of those two.
Jacoby is one of only 3 guys that have been here longer than 2 years, and he's our point guard. And so that's huge because usually, a lot of these great Murray teams, you have 4- and 5-year guys. But I think I truly believe this. So where if you get a good player in Murray, Kentucky, because of the community and because of how well these guys are taken care of on and off the floor and the support that we have. I mean, we've had everybody. We've had ESPN Midnight Madness here, Dick Vitale here, now the field of 68 here. We've had a little bit of everything here, that's come through and given our program notoriety. We've had lottery picks. Our guys are taken well care of so well that I think you can keep a very good player here. And I think Nick Ellington has a chance to be one of the top, if not the top big kid, post player returning in the league. And then Jacoby Wood, he's going on to be a 3-year starter here at the point guard position, brings a ton of experience and a ton of knowledge and scoring at that point guard position. And the areas you want to really be good at, if you're going to be good for the long hauls, at the point and at up front. And those guys are our 2 bookends, and it's great to have them back. And obviously the community had to jump in and help support those guys to keep them here. But I do think without a doubt that if you get a good player here, because of our support, we're going to be able to keep them here.
Steve, how good is this transfer group that you put around those guys? Because Kyron Lindsey was a highly touted guy coming out of high school, spent the last couple of years at Texas Tech and Georgia. Obviously, A.J. Ferguson played for a very good program, Southern Illinois. And then you got two guys that we don't know a lot about that put up numbers at smaller schools in Harcum and Milton at App State and Pine Bluff. And Milton put up 17 a game last year at Pine Bluff. Obviously you want that depth too at that guard spot, and it looks like you have it.
Yeah, I think if you just even our women's coach, the other day she was watching us, and she's done a great job here. She just from the beginning can tell. People that watch us have practiced in the summer and early fall. We're a lot more athletic, and we shoot the ball a lot better. And if you really research, because we got diehards here that research all my teams. The teams of mine that have shot it well, they've been really, really good. And the teams that haven't shot it well have just been average. And that's just the reality of especially the way that we like to play, from that standpoint. So.
Steve, you said in Blue Ribbon, and I'm going to read a quote to you. You said, "Man, I am excited about him." Do you remember who you were talking about when you said that?
Probably a couple guys, to be honest. Kylan Milton, I think, has got a chance to be really good. And I know, Jeff, I left you short on your question talking about Kylan and Terrence. I'll jump back to there. But I would guess Kylan Milton. But, when we recruited Terrence Harcum, Dustin Kern said to me, Steve, and I know Dustin well, and he did an unbelievable job over at App last year. He said he's going to end up being one of your favorite players you've ever coached. I would guess one of those two. And I could be dead wrong, too.
Laurent Rice.
Yeah, and, Laurent, he was injured all last year. Got to play a little bit towards the end. What he gives now is he gives a guy that can challenge Jacoby Wood every day, which I don't think we had last year. And I think even when we had guys like Isaiah Cannon, the best year he had here, he had guys to challenge him. He had a kid, Zay Jackson, that challenged him every day. We have more guys to challenge each other now. And I think that's huge. And, Laurent's going to be a big piece, whether he ends up being a guy that starts or ends up being a big contributor off the bench. He's going to have a big role for us because he can play two ends of this. He can play on both ends. But talking about those guys, Kylan, Terrence, they're guys that I've been extremely impressed with. They both can score. Harcum's comes from a program that's won a championship last year, won almost 30 games, or maybe they won 30-plus games. He was an all-Sun Belt guy. But both those guys bring shooting and scoring and toughness and the ability to play both ends. And then Lindsey, he's a guy that can play the small ball five for us in our league. And then Ferguson just brings some toughness and nastiness and competitiveness that Brian Mullins did a great job, really getting out of him over there, and he can bring that to our program because the great Murray teams have had grit, had toughness, and he can be a big staple for that. But it's kind of like Lane Kiffin joked, the other day after his press conference. He thanked his collective because his defense has gotten a lot better. And this spring was the first year that we had true NIL, and it gave us the opportunity to bring in a really, really good transfer class to where we've got 4 guys that are going to compete to play major minutes and be impact guys for us.
Hey, break down, Steve, for me the percentage of time you think you spend with NIL now compared to coaching. Because, in the old days it was coaching and recruiting, and now it's like coaching, recruiting / NIL, but they're almost in 2 different buckets now. How much of your time do you think you would estimate you spend with NIL?
Not to the extreme to where some of the coaches to where, Murray, Kentucky's small. So we're not, in New York City to where we're having different events here and there. As we're doing this, we've got a golf tournament this afternoon. I'm in constant communication with our collective from that standpoint. We've got a mentoring program we established for our players that we meet quarterly with their mentors in town in our community, which kind of opens up doors for them, not just NIL wise, but life wise, life skill wise, job force-wise when they leave here. But I would say, it's got to be, I would say 30, 40, maybe 50%, because you are in communication with them a lot. You are trying to make sure we're up to speed. In a community like this, we've been able to get a restaurant card established, just something as simple as that, to where our guys have 30 different restaurants they can go to throughout a course of the month and have a free meal. And in turn, that's another NIL deal. So
hey,
there's
if we ever got that for Dauster, I mean, imagine what he'd weigh. He's already at about 250.
You're not eating right again, man. Last time when I left the show, man, you were eating right.
Yeah, I got down to about
back-to-back championships.
Yeah, that's what it was. I got down to about 230, and then it was like, hey, you know what? Look at this. I'm in shape now. I can go back to eating the crap that I was eating before. And you fall back into the bad habits.
Yeah, but we I spend not a crazy amount of time, but it is a constant, either daily or every other day. My AD is terrific. He is on the cutting edge. He is very, very aggressive. And I think when all this stuff comes in-house, which I know that's trending in that direction, when that comes, if it's in the next 6 months, it's next year, I think that's going to give our program the opportunity to really take another step. We've got arena renovations that are about to go into place. And so we've got some really good things planned. And this program's committed, and this university's committed to being elite. Because basketball, as you guys know, it means a ton to not just this university, but to this region, to this community, and to this state.
All right, we can't let you go without hitting you on your Commanders. All right, we cannot. And we know you live and die with the Commanders. Right now, they're good. Like, break down Jaden Daniels for me. Break him down. Is he the guy? Like, are you feeling good that he is the future, that he's looked better than Caleb Williams, at least so far?
Yeah, and we probably, that may have to do with a little bit of our offensive line. But, we beat the Giants. My whole staff, crazy enough, my radio guy is a diehard Eagles fan. My one assistant's a diehard Cowboy fan, and my operations guy is a diehard Giants fan. So there's constant NFC East battle in our office. But we beat the Giants this weekend. I thought Jaden was really efficient. The Commanders are my one team outside Murray State that I'm really passionate about, which you can see. But I thought he was really efficient. I think the other day against the Giants, at one point, 18 for 20, 18 for 21. He was really, really good. And so I haven't heard a negative thing about him. It looks like the guys really, really rally around him. Obviously, there's a process to it. I love Brian Robinson. We got a defensive-minded coach, and then we've got obviously a terrific offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury. And I'm fired up, man, because the Eagles and Cowboys, I just don't know how good they are this year. And the Giants, obviously, we know what Dauster thinks of them right now. So, but one of my most cherished gifts are jerseys, and I've got a lot of former players' jerseys, Monte Morris, Campaign, Halliburton, all those guys, Isaiah Cannon.
You left out Niang. On purpose?
I got Niang. Niang's already. I had Niang's framed already from when I was up in Iowa, and so Niang will be in the office. If Niang's wasn't in the office and Morris was, he'd be on me forever. And so George has made himself such a great pro. He's going on 10 years now, I think, maybe 9 years, going on 9 years now, left in 2016, so this is going to be his 9th year as a pro.
Steve, he's just got to stay off the cupcakes. He's just got to stay off the cupcakes. That's all.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dauster.
But
same thing,
yeah.
Same problem.
Yeah, but that's the one thing these guys, as they go to the NBA, you've got to have the ability and the humility to change your game, because there's only so many stars, and he's done a great job of buying into that, and I'm really happy for him. Happy for all those guys. We've got obviously campaigns with the Knicks. Dauster, are you a Knicks fan?
No. I'm a UConn fan. When it comes to hoops, I'm a UConn fan, Pro. I'll root for the Sixers too because my son is a diehard Tyrese Maxey guy. So I'll root for the Sixers.
Okay. All right. But yeah, we'll have him up in there. So but yeah, the Commanders, it's going to be can we get to 10 wins? Can we go 10-7? And if we can, I think it gives us our chance.
I don't know. Art Monk ain't walking through that door, Pro.
Man, I wish he was. See, I grew up 3 Super Bowls. I grew up through, Theismann and Mark Rippon, Doug Williams, Art Monk, John Riggins.
You're old.
Yeah.
You're older than me, I think.
Yeah, I'm 50. Turned 50 this summer.
You're younger than me. Damn it.
I turned 50 this summer. How's your daughter? She's enjoying Indiana?
She's good. Yeah, she's covering any Murray State women's basketball news. Tell the women's coach to reach out to Talia.
I'll do it. Guys, I appreciate it. Is this the end of it?
It's always a pleasure, man. It's great catching up with you. Yeah. My favorite part about having you on, and the biggest thing that I've missed, is that every time Goodman makes one of his terrible jokes, you just move right on by it like it never happened. So I appreciate you for that. It's been great catching up, man. Best of luck this season. I got high hopes for you guys. This year. I'm not saying if. I'm saying when you land a big win, make sure you clear your schedule that night. I don't care if the Commanders are playing or what. Clear your schedule. We're getting you a spot on the field of 68 after dark.
We've got a great non-conference. We got a great non-conference schedule. We go to Pitt. We open up in Nebraska and Hoiberg out in Hawaii with the Diamond Head. We've got some good ones. So, but I like our group. I'm excited, and so I appreciate.
Pick one of them off, man. Pick one of them off. We'll get you on.
Guys.
We'll be back with more Missouri Valley Media Day after this. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the field of 68, and we're thrilled to be joined by Northern Iowa head coach Ben Jacobson. And Ben, I'm just going to jump right into it, man. Look, to me, your roster is pretty indicative of kind of what the portal era is right now, right? Lost 2 scores to high majors. You lost 7 guys to transfer. But I would argue that you guys are in about as good of a position when it comes to a continuity perspective as anybody. You bring back 3 starters. You bring back 5 rotation guys. Is this just kind of what the new normal is in college basketball at this level?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and talking to people when I run into them and talk about, the first thing they go to is the transfer stuff that happened in the spring. Hey, coach, what's going on? Hey, everything okay? The program good? So then you go through the guys, and then that makes more sense. When you get through all the guys. And then you get to the piece of what you just said. Like, that's where we are right now. Right? You're going to have some guys leave in the spring, and then you're going to go in the portal, and you're going to get some new guys to fill in those spots that either guys have left or some spots that you need. So a year ago, we knew we needed a big center. So we were able to go and get Jacob Hudson. Right? He was the one guy we took, but that was what we needed. This past year, we ended up taking 4 guys in the portal because that's what we needed. We had some guys that left, that you mentioned. So, when I say to them, look, we've got 9 players back. We've got 3 starters back. And they kind of like, oh, well, that's all right. I said, no. Today, that's really good. When you've got, 9 or 10 guys back and you've got 3 of your starters back, that's just where we're at right now.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, you lost your 2 best players, arguably, and they got a lot of money. Like, it's hard to fight that, isn't it, right now? Like, again, loyalty means something, but ultimately, for a lot of these kids, it's either an opportunity to get paid or to play at the highest level. And sometimes, I know this is going to be hard for you because you've been doing this so long, and you are old school, and I am too. And you're fighting with yourself to some degree on kind of where college basketball has gone, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. And when it came in 2.5, 3 years ago, guys, that was what you just described, Jeff, was exactly it. I'm like, all right, we are not doing this. We're not going to go in the portal. It's not happening. We are going to continue to do things the way we have always done them, and we're going to recruit high school players, and they're all going to stay. There's no chance they're going to leave, right? Everyone's going to stay, and we're just going to keep recruiting high school players. We're going to stay out of this thing.
They love me.
And
right. They love me. Why would they want to leave?
Yeah. Why would they go? That lasted a year, right? And we did the first spring. We had zero. There were 5 teams in the country that had nobody go in the portal after that first full year. We were one of the 5 schools. So that piece of our program is still in place. It's just that what we've touched on already, like making the decision, getting comfortable, and for me as a head coach, having the understanding that when we get to the spring, there's a really good chance that we're going to have 2 or 3 guys go in the portal, whether we like it or not, just because that's the way things are now. And the opportunities that you mentioned, Jeff, those are there. Sometimes you've got guys that are good players that maybe didn't play as much as they were hoping to when they were into their second and third year. And so they feel like maybe there's an opportunity for them to go somewhere else and play more. There's some good reasons why guys go in the transfer portal. But I think the most important thing, at least for me as a head coach, was a year and a half ago, just saying, hey, look, this is where we're at. We're going to accept it, and we're going to make the most of it. We're still going to recruit our high school players. We've got 3 young guys that came in together that are going into their second year. We've got 3 young guys that are in their first year as freshmen, and we're going to sign 3 high school seniors in November. Okay, so we're still doing it a lot the same way. Now we've just added, okay, when we get to the spring, we're going to go and do what we need to do in the transfer portal. But we've still got a really good base with our high school recruiting.
You kind of touched on 2 guys that I wanted to ask you about there. The first was Jacob Hudson. Last 7 games of the season, averaged 13 points. It seems like he really kind of found his footing. And his former Loyola Chicago teammate, Ben Schweiger, is a guy who didn't necessarily have the greatest third season that I'm assuming he wanted at Loyola after being an all A10 freshman player when he was at Loyola. So you got those 2 guys from Loyola that look like they're going to kind of make up part of your front line. What have you seen out of them this summer?
Yeah, Huddy, and we recruited him out of high school. So, he made the decision to go to Loyola. Porter was probably doing NIL before NIL was legal. That's probably why Porter got him and we didn't. There's probably some of that going on. We were really lucky to get him, okay? But we knew him. We knew his family. There's a lot of things that Porter does still and was doing at Loyola, of course, that, and we're talking X's and O's, sure, but even outside of that, right? So you're getting a guy who's been a part of in all of the right stuff. So really fortunate to get Huddy, and he did. He was great the last kind of month and a half. He was terrific, and he took off in the spring, and he took that into the summer. He's playing better than he was playing at that time. He set himself up to have a great senior year, and then Ben. There's the one similarity with Ben and with Huddy. Huddy didn't play a lot either. Right, the year before he got here. And so Ben's coming out of a year where he didn't play a bunch, but man, we back and watched his film from that year that you mentioned when he was on the A10 All-Rookie team. Watching him play that year, and one of the games in particular was a game at Richmond and playing against the 6'5" wing. We'd played against him a bunch. I'm forgetting his name right now. He transferred up to UConn. But he's playing against him when Ben's a freshman, and the big wing is into his 3rd or 4th year. And he kind of went toe-to-toe with them, and it's a guy that we had played against a lot. So, as a staff, we talked about it, like, look, I know he didn't play a bunch here this past year, but we're seeing the kind of things that we think are going to fit us. So we're excited about Ben. And I think Huddy, our front court with Huddy and with Titan Anderson, guys, that front court's really, really good. I feel as a head coach when we go into a game, I feel like we're going to have as good a front court as there is, and that's something that both those guys made the decision to come back, right? When they certainly would have had an opportunity if they wanted to go and get paid or go and do what you said, Jeff, go get paid or go to the highest level, and those 2 guys decided to come back. So our front court's really good.
I love the addition of Leon Bond from Virginia. You talk about a guy who's well coached. Leon Bond is going to be well coached coming out of that Virginia program with Tony. What are your expectations for him? Because there is a chance. I mean, certainly there's some playing time there. There's some competition at that spot. But I got to figure Leon Bond's going to be a key component of your team this year.
Yeah, I tell you guys, it's been a lot of fun. Leon and I getting to know each other, and one of the things that I pushed with him when he first got here was taking more 3-point shots. Right? You guys have watched this enough. We're going to shoot a lot of 3-point shots, and it's always been a big part of what we're doing. And he didn't play a bunch this past year. Had a role on that team, but didn't play a bunch. Did not shoot very many 3-point shots. So I really pushed that with him, working to build his confidence, letting him know that, hey, we want you to take threes when you're open. Let's really work hard on it outside of practice. So we're taking some maybe when, even when you're covered a little bit, we want that to be a big part of what you're doing. And, the more we went through the summer and he and I sat down, a couple different times, and he's, that will be a part of what he does, but he's got a ton of versatility. And I was really pushing that 3-point shot, right? Because I wanted him to feel the confidence from me, and I wanted him to take those shots in practice to feel what that is like. That's going to be a part of what he does, guys. But he's got a ton of versatility. He handles the ball. He's a good passer. He's a willing passer. He's not out there just trying to find his own shot. And then defensively, he can guard a bunch of positions. So you got a versatile defender. He's gonna, if he gets downhill, if he gets down, around the basket, he's gonna finish. He brings so much to the table. And one of the things that he and I have talked about a lot is he's got a big personality, and just wanting to see that every day at practice and as we get ready to play games, because he's got the type of personality, contagious in the way of he can help other guys play better by the way in which he's talking to them, right? He can pump confidence into guys. He's just, like I said, he brings a lot to the table.
Ben, you've been at Northern Iowa since 2001. You were an assistant for 5 years. You've been the head coach for, I believe this is year 19 for you now. You probably know the Valley and mid-major basketball as well as anybody in the country. 12 of the 13 all-league guys from the Valley this year that had eligibility remaining transferred out of the conference this year. And I think that success at your level allows guys to get an opportunity at the higher level. But I'm curious, how long is this kind of process sustainable for teams that are at the mid-major level? And how do you adapt to the way that the current system is kind of set up?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we had a fundraiser yesterday, and we're talking about the exact same thing with the 15 all-conference guys, where they went, and the big number is the one you just mentioned. And, the piece of that now that we've got a couple years under our belt is, the guys in this league, they see the success that the guys they were playing against are having when they go up, right? So, right, they see that. So now, not only are they like, man, it'd be great if I had a shot to go do that, they've just watched guys that they've competed against go and do it and have a ton of success doing it. So, if anything, there's more for those guys now than there's ever been to say, hey, I want to go do that, knowing that they can have success at that level. And that obviously isn't the answer that maybe I should be giving as our head coach or the head coach in our league or for teams that are at our level, because that, certainly in a way is gives them another reason to want to bounce or to want to go in the transfer portal and try to move up. I just think there's and I'll just use us for an example. The two guys we've talked about already, Ben and Leon. Right? We also Division II guard Max Weisbrod out of northern Michigan, and a small college guard out of Coe College here in the state, Cale Schmidt. So both those guys are moving up to where we're at, right? And both those guys have been great, man. They are tough and hard nosed, and Cale's a scorer. Max can really shoot it, and so you get those two. You put them with Ben and Leon, and then you put them with the 9 guys back and the 3 starters back. So
good mix.
Yeah. Going back more to your question, it's where we're at now, right? And we've touched on that, but it's going to continue to happen. Guys in our league are going to go out of our league in the spring, right? And there's going to be some good opportunities for them, and then there's going to be guys that come into our league that are either from a spot where they're looking for some more playing time, or they're moving up a level, right? We're seeing it with Division II guys, with small college guys. Those guys are having success. So there's and maybe we don't want to go down this road, guys. There's things about it that are really good, right, and really positive, for young people in terms of getting paid and making some money, and in terms of having the opportunity to, if you feel like it's best for you to move around, then that opportunity can be there. There's a couple things about it that guys are missing on having the same teammates for 4 and 5 years, right? I mean, and guys might say, oh, this or that, but look, we've all heard the stories already, right? A guy's at a place for 4 years, he leaves for 1, and then he's wanting to go back to the reunions at the place he was at for 4, right? And maybe that'll work out. Okay, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But big picture, guys, I'm telling you, that's a very different college or team experience. Okay? I'm going back, not this Friday, but next Friday. One of my teammates is going in the Hall of Fame at the University of North Dakota. There's 20 guys going back. I know it was 100 years ago, right? I know a long time ago, but there's 20 guys going back. Like that's one of the things that not going to happen as much anymore because of guys moving around. Doesn't mean guys shouldn't move around, but that's one of the positives of being part of a team that they miss out on it. And then you just hope the money thing doesn't impact guys in a negative way when they're done playing. You're getting paid while you're going through college, and that's great. I'm all for it. But at some point, whether you're playing basketball for a long time or you don't, if you don't make it professionally, and then you're getting out into the workforce, like that's different than getting that NIL check and playing basketball and having the academic advisor and the trainer and the coaches and everybody else, and we're all working together to help you get to the best spot you can get and get you ready. There's going to come a time, right? For it was the same way for the three of us, right? It's going to be that way for all the student athletes right now getting on NIL, and I worry about that. That they're going to hit a point where they've got to get a job, and they may not be making as much money in that job in the first couple of years that they were making with NIL. So a lot of positives to it, and I've accepted it, and that's where we're at. But I worry about those two things.
They can always just be a TikTok sensation. That's all, Ben. They can go that route if they're not making as much money. Well said. Well said. All right, let's lighten it up a little bit. I got a little not dirt on you, but I got some stuff here that I want to hit you with. And one is you are an avid card collector. Baseball, football, basketball, I'm told, a little bit of everything, which I did not know about you. I actually found when I was cleaning out my house, when I sold my house a few weeks ago, I found a Michael Jordan rookie card. Oh, wow. One of those Fleer sticker cards. So I got to get that thing. You got to send it in, get it graded. Times have changed with cards these days from when I had them when I was younger. Give me your most prized possession of any sort of card, whatever it is.
Yeah, my favorite, I've got a George Brett rookie card, okay, 1975 tops. It is, I've got one graded, and I think it came back as either a 5 or a 6. Right? So so I'm always, and I've got one that's ungraded. Right? And so I'm looking, every couple of weeks I go on eBay and I look to see, what that thing's doing, and am I ready to buy a 7 or buy an 8? That PSA grade. Once you get to that 7, 8, in that range, it's a little more. You get to that 9 and it jumps up, and obviously the perfect, the Gem Mint 10, man, that's a. So we'll see where I go with my George Brett one, but I've got 2 of those, one graded, one ungraded. I've got a Tim Duncan rookie from 1997, 98, and it's a Fleer offshoot. So the brand is Fleer Showcase, and they did 4. They've got a row 3, a row 2, a row 1, and a row 0. So each player has got a card in each of those rows. Okay, so Duncan's got 4 different cards in this same, and then they made a legacy collection out of it. Okay, so numbered to 100, and I've got one of Tim Duncan's. It's his rookie year, and it's numbered out of 100, and so there's only 100 of them in the world. It's his rookie year. I haven't sent it in to get graded yet, and I don't know that I will. So those 2, and then I got Buster Posey. I'm a big San Francisco Giants fan. Huge San Francisco Giants fan. And so I bought a bunch of Buster Posies, got a couple really good rookies, a couple numbered cards. We've sent in a few of those, a couple of Gem Mint 10s.
All right, I got a couple more quick ones for you. One, I hear you've been working out a ton this summer. Ton. What have you been doing? Benching, running, a little bit of everything. I heard you're in the best shape maybe since you played back in the days.
You got spies in town. I thought you were maybe just talking to Farouk Manesh or some of these goofballs that I used to coach. You got spies in town. Yeah. No lifting weights, man. We are not lifting weights, guys. No, that's off the table. No. We're on the elliptical a little bit, and we're out there running a little bit.
All right, last one. You are now an empty nester. Your youngest son just went to Nebraska. I'm an empty nester as well. I only have one, so she's been gone for a couple of years. She still calls me 10 times a day, which is great. Might be, I might want to cut it down to like 7 times a day sometimes. What's the best part and the worst part of being an empty nester?
The best part. The best part, I would say, is knowing that. We got the best of both worlds here. Okay, so the first thing that hit me, the best part. So Tanner's our youngest son. He's the one that is at Nebraska. We just dropped him over there about a month ago. Is knowing that he's loving it over there. Like he went over there for their business school. Classes are going good. He just started working rec center. Found some buddies for their assault group and their church group. He's been to all of home football games. He's been to a volleyball game. He won't let me come and take him out to dinner. He's like, Dad, I'm good. Like I got my buddies. We got Colorado coming in the next day. It was his birthday, and he wouldn't let me come over and take him out for dinner. Right then, they're doing well, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's probably the best part is just knowing he's doing great. And then his older brother Hunter walked on with our team, and he's starting his 3rd year with our team. So we're empty nesters, but Hunter's in town. I get to see him every day. So my wife and I got the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, listen, Ben, we appreciate you being here, man. It's been great to catch up. I appreciate your insight on the state of college athletics. The honesty was kind of refreshing, to be honest. We'll have more from Missouri Valley Media Day coming up here in just a moment. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the field of 68. And we are now joined by Southern Illinois head coach Scott Nagy. Scott, I'm just going to throw your feet to the fire, man. It's year 30 for you as a head coach. I don't want to date you, but it is. Have you ever dealt with a situation like this where you have as much turnover on your roster as you are currently dealing with this program?
Yeah, not even close. Not even close. Having, coming here and having 3 players and having to recruit 10 in about a month and a half was something I don't ever want to do again. I hope I never have to do it again. But, it was a good learning experience for me and for my staff. And I think that was the other issue for me was only being able to keep one player one staff member coming with me. And so not only having to coach 13 new guys, but a whole new staff and getting them used to me and me getting used to them. So it's been a big adjustment. It's been a lot of work for all of us this summer, probably more so for me. I'm used to relying on my coaches pretty heavily in the summer and the fall to let them do most of the coaching so I can give the players a break from me a break, because once practice gets here, they're going to get plenty of me.
All right, we got to go through, give some people that probably maybe aren't as familiar with you. I got to give you a little bit of a plug here. 14 straight winning seasons as a coach, 18th in wins among active D1 coaches, 8 years at Wright State, 3 regular season titles, 2 NCAA tournaments, 21 years at South Dakota State, guided the program into the D1 transition. What you've done, 3 tournaments while you were at South Dakota State as well, is kind of ridiculous. And I tell everybody, among the underrated coaches in America, I will put you up there against anybody. I really will. As a ball coach, as an old school ball coach, there aren't many better than you. I want to know from you why you did this, why you went Wright State to Southern Illinois, because a lot of people probably don't understand that. And I kind of want to get that from you as well.
Obviously I'm not one of those coaches that chases jobs. In 29 years, I've been at 2 jobs, and wasn't looking for a job in this situation either. And I appreciate what you said to me. I'm probably not great at selling myself because I'm focused on winning.
No. Wait. Let me stop you. Not great. You're probably the worst in America at selling yourself. Okay.
Yeah. It's that part of it's just not important to me. Because I don't want the program to be about me. I want it to be about the players. And I say this all the time. We've won wherever I've been, but really what I've done the best at is hiring good assistant coaches, and they've helped me get good players. And I say it all the time. I'm a good coach when we have good players, and I'm not a good coach when we don't. I mean, that's just the way that it works. And we found a lot of guys that have been under recruited and done very well with them, and they've stayed with us and trusted us, and we've helped develop them. And so it's all worked out very well for me. I'm thankful to have a job most days, and I don't take it for granted. Any office I walk into, I know that I could be fired the next day, and so I want to do a good job every day. Even though I never feel like I do a good job. But in leaving Wright State, I think a couple factors. One, losing my athletic director, Bob Grant, who was a great guy to work for. I felt like I had the best AD in the country. He just put such a high importance on men's basketball. He worked very hard to get me away from South Dakota State, which was not easy to do. That was a very hard transition for me and for my family. And I loved working at Wright State and working for Bob, but when he left, and probably even before that, I just had felt like that personally for me that I'd done about everything I could do there. And with Bob leaving, even though I wasn't looking for a job, I just felt like I was running out of energy, and I didn't like the spot I was in. I know that my assistant, Clint Sargent, was concerned about it, and I'm happy for him that he's able to walk in there behind me and get his first head coaching job. And so that's another plus for me to see Clint be a head coach. But to be able to not look for a job and to have somebody seek you out and really want you is special, and it's nice to be wanted. And just coming here has given me more energy and more juice for the job, and I'm excited about it. There's a lot of teaching going on, a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces, including my coaches, and so it's just been kind of a big energy boost for me. Even though the most difficult thing, and I told you this before, the most difficult thing for me was leaving our family, because our 5 children, 3 daughters-in-law, three granddaughters, another one on the way. Leaving all that was hard for us, but my wife and I both looked at each other when this happened and said that this wasn't an accident the way it happened, because it happened fast. We weren't prepared for it, but we knew it wasn't an accident, and so we decided to go.
When you take over a new program, there's always going to be a level of getting to know people when you walk in that door the first time. But generally speaking, it's not when you're trying to build that roster at the same time, right? Maybe you have returnees, maybe you have guys that kind of know each other. You're coming in here with 2, like you said, 3 guys coming back to the program, 2 guys that played last year. Where do you start when you have this many new faces and this many people that are trying to get to know each other? Like, how do you start getting? It's not just players, right? It's coaching staff, it's members that are working with you. Like, how do you start? Like, what's point A for you in this process?
The staff, the staff is the number one thing. Getting them hired, finding people that can fit you, and that's not easy to do, particularly when you're hiring people that you don't really know. And that's what I did with almost every case but one in terms of our staff. But we feel like we got it right. There was a guy here, Jerrance Howard, when I first got here that I wanted to keep. And then a couple weeks into it, he went to Arizona State. So that set us back a little bit. We were able to keep Javon Mayman, who was here previously. And Javon has helped a lot in terms of the players that were here, the recruiting. He's very well known in Chicago. But, I think we got that right in terms of the staff, the people that we hired. Steve Hawkins was a really good gift for us and for me in particular. Steve has just such an incredible amount of experience, has taken teams to the NCAA tournament himself, and to have a guy like that with that knowledge sitting next to me is a big help for me. and then he kind of helps control the rest of the staff. So I do think I got that right, and then we got to work on going and getting the players.
All right, so let's get this off the rails a little bit, because that's what I do well. I do that pretty well. Rob can attest to that. All right, couple things I found out digging around about you. There's not a lot of dirt. All right, there's not a lot of dirt. One thing I found is, Rob, how about this? Every time, Scott loves to walk, like addicted to walking. But every time he walks outside, he sneezes and says it's hereditary. Is this true?
It is. I can't remember the name of it, but I say this all the time. If you ever went to church with my family and then we walk outside, probably 5 of us are sneezing within about 10 seconds of each other because of the brightness of the sun. And it actually is a condition. It is hereditary. I don't know what it's called, but we have it. And so if I ever do need to sneeze, it's pretty valuable to me to be able just to walk outside and look near the sun.
That happens to me too. That's not uncommon. Whenever I feel like I have a sneeze, I just go and try to find the brightest light I can look at.
Yeah. All
right.
Yeah. I don't know what the condition's called.
Scott's a huge Cowboys fan, and he went to his first game. He went to his first game earlier this year, last week, against the Saints. And ask him what happened. First game.
I know what happened.
Yeah, the Saints beat them down pretty good. I think by halftime we were hanging out in the owners club and just eating a lot of food and having a good time. But that stadium is amazing. It was a lot of fun for me and Coach Hawkins. But yeah, I was born in Abilene, Texas, and been a Cowboy fan my entire life.
Well, that
I got
makes a lot of
one
sense.
One more before Rob gets it back to basketball. New puppy, Penny. First of all, I want to know if you did you name it after Penny Hardaway, number 1, and number 2, what kind of dog is it?
She's an English bulldog, and we basically came up with the name Penny just because of her color. But we had, when we moved here, it was incredible. We have a boxer and an English bulldog, and our English bulldog, who his name was Diesel. He was about a foot tall, 80 pounds. It was a crazy story, but he died on the way here in the back of the car. And it was awful. It was a terrible memory for my wife. It was just a horrible thing to happen. I think he probably had a heart attack, and it was not a good deal. And so, what's that?
How old?
He was 6.5. English bulldogs aren't the healthiest dogs in the world anyway, but they're great dogs and fun. And so I went out and got another one. Diesel was very, very connected to my wife. I wanted a dog that was connected to me, so I bring her up here to the office quite a bit, and she's kind of the team dog, and everybody loves her up here. So we're training her. She'll be with me a lot next week up here. The players enjoy her.
So I was going to ask you. You said you're from Texas. You brought in Elijah Elliott from Rio Grande Valley. You brought in Ali Deba from Abilene Christian. You brought in Davion Sykes from Texas State, and you brought in Drew Steffi from Texas Tech. Was there a reason that you targeted a bunch of guys from Texas to bring into the program, or was it just something that happened that way?
Yeah, it was. Drew was the first. He was our first recruit. And I do think from that, just some of the connections that he has, his family has, the coaches that have coached him, it kind of helped us in some other areas. It's a little bit unusual to be at Southern Illinois and have 13 scholarship players, and only 1 player is from Illinois. And here we have 4 from Texas. But we just had to do what we had to do. But we feel like we got a decent pipeline and some guys that are well known in Texas, and I think that helped us recruit other guys.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Drew Steffi real quick, Goodman. Not to cut you off, Goodman, but real quick on Drew Steffi, a 4-star kid coming off of a red shirt. How do you get him up to speed? Like, how do you get him ready to start playing after a year off?
Well, it's not super difficult. I think the most difficult thing is just changing programs and getting used to a new coach and what's important to us. But he's a good basketball player. He had people working him out the entire time he was out, even though he wasn't with a basketball team. And so I don't think that stuff has been really difficult. He's done a good job. He's a very good offensive player, very good shooter. He's getting better on the defensive end, which is going to be important to us in order for him to get on the floor. But having an extra year of college experience is good for him, even though he's a freshman.
All right, so I'm going to make you, since you've been doing this a long time, I'm going to make you the college basketball like czar, all right? As Jay Billis says, we need a college basketball czar. I'm going to make you that, give you that title. Give me the first thing you would do to change anything. Could be on the court, rules, could be off the court, NIL, transfer related, whatever it is. What's the first thing you change?
Well, I would get rid of the NIL is probably what I would do. Most people don't like to hear that. I don't necessarily like it. I don't think what's going on is good for the young men in terms of the bouncing around. So many of them end up in situations where maybe they get paid more money, but they're in worse basketball situations, and so it doesn't help them down the road. Everybody sees, the kid that it works out for, but they don't see the other 9 guys that it doesn't end up being a better basketball situation for them. And I can't pretend like the NIL is not important, because it is, and it's important to those kids, and I don't blame them for that. Money's important. And so I don't want to bury my head in the sand, but I'm not crazy about it. I just don't think it's what is best for them at this point, because so many of them are going to be making more money now than they ever will the rest of their life, which is not the normal course of things. And so I struggle with it. I have to fit it in to what we're doing and my values. But I always say if I never had to get in a portal, I wouldn't do it. I would much rather recruit freshmen, keep them in our system. I know that's when we have the best teams, or when we've had kids with us 3 and 4 years.
All right. Last thing I got for you, Scott, is you're heading to a really, really good league in the Missouri Valley. What do you do to prep for coaching here? Are you watching some film on other teams? Are you trying to figure out how other coaches want to play? There's a little bit of coaching turnover in the conference as well, but what do you do to get ready for a new league as you're entering as a coach?
A lot of turnover, and almost half the coaches in this league. I know that's a different league. The Horizon was more of an offensive league. This league tends to be more physical, lower scoring. I still like to play fast. I like our teams to score a lot of points. We're pretty free offensively, even though I think most people who don't know me, if they looked at us, would think, well, he's an offensive coach. I'm really not. I'm like, what's most important to me is defense. We just try to recruit good offensive players, and we give them a lot of freedom. Last year at Wright State, we were number 1 in the country in field goal percentage. We were 4th in the country in scoring. We just had probably the best offensive team I've ever had, maybe one of the worst defensive teams. Last year's team may have been maybe the most disappointing year I've ever had. And we won 18 games, and we should have won 25 because we weren't good enough defensively. And we were tremendous offensively. People couldn't stop us. And I know how important defense is. And so these guys are paying for it this year, even though they had nothing to do with it. We're spending a lot of time on defense. This is a very tough league. And so it'll be interesting to see with how we play offensively, how that's going to fit into this league, because we're going to play with pace and give guys freedom. The team we have is not necessarily a great shooting team. We lack a little bit of guard play. We're big. We're athletic. We should be physical. We should be a great defense and rebounding team. It's going to be interesting to see how it all works. But I think as I look at those two leagues, that's probably the biggest difference, is just how much more wide open the Horizon was than the Missouri Valley is.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you with this before you close, Rob. I've been to Carbondale once. Okay, once. It was 2007. Brad Stevens' first season as a head coach at Butler. I think it was his 12th or 13th game. Came in, and they won on a last-second, 40-footer from A.J. Graves. Butler was ranked at the time. They win the game. Again, Brad Stevens is a rookie college head coach. They win in a buzzer beater. And just like you'd expect from Brad Stevens, literally shows zero emotion, goes down, shakes the hand of Chris Lowry, and nothing, not a smile, nothing on his face. But I'll tell you what, that game, I'm not kidding when I tell you, that was a top 5 atmosphere, a top 5 game I've ever been to in college basketball. So I would love to get back to Carbondale. That's the goal. You got to get this thing back going. Get it back going. And we know you will.
Well, that's why they hired us, and that's why they hired us. They're putting their trust in us. You know, Brian did a good job here before, and coaching's a tough deal. And I got a lot of respect for what he's done, what he's done here. They want to be in the NCAA tournament, and we've done that. And obviously this is a step up for me, and so it'll be interesting to see how we handle it.
Well, Scott, we appreciate you being here, man. We appreciate you jumping on with us, and we have more coming from Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68. That's coming up next. Welcome back to Missouri Valley Media Day here on the Field of 68. We are joined now by Valparaiso head coach Roger Powell. Roger, it is year 2 as a head coach at Valpo, but it is year, I believe, 7 as a coach with this program. The last time that you were at Valpo before you got the head coaching job, they were in a different league. What has changed kind of about the program, your experience there, now that you guys are in the Missouri Valley?
Oh, my goodness. So much has changed. I mean, for me in general, just, being at Vanderbilt and then at Gonzaga, just, overall my experience has been, I've gained a ton. So coming back to this program, it was I had a different mindset. I was ready to be a head coach. As far as the program is concerned, man, it still feels the same. It's people think of Valparaiso University men's basketball program as a program that, has a strong basketball program. Now, we moved to a tougher league. The Missouri Valley is definitely tougher than the Horizon League we're in. It's extremely competitive. But for me, it's kind of like, coming home for me. I kind of grew up around Missouri Valley programs. So, the Bradleys, Illinois States, and just all these teams around Illinois, man, it's pretty cool just being in this league. Now, the task of trying to compete in this league and get Valpo to a championship level in this league is something that, it's different. It's different, man. These are great coaches, great programs. We got a lot of new coaches, but they're all really good. So it's a fun challenge for me and something that I'm looking forward to, year 2 in.
So the good thing, Roger, you bring back your top 3 scorers from a year ago. A year ago, it's tough. You get your first head coaching job. It's crazy. Your head's on a swivel. You're trying to figure everything out. You got your top 3 scorers back. That's the good news. The tough news is senior Isaiah Stafford. We don't know kind of what his situation is going to be with his knee injury. What's the latest with that? How much time do you expect him to miss? Is he going to be back this year? Do we know at this point?
That's a dagger. I'm not going to lie. He's a really good player. I mean, anytime you score multiple 30-point games, scored 30 points on my alma mater at Illinois. I mean, this kid's extremely talented. But last year he was playing through injury for most of the season, so we didn't really get to see, him at full strength. And obviously taking care of everything in the offseason like we did was paramount for his future and for our program. So right now, I think it's, week to week, month to month, he's on pace. Everything looks good. I mean, he was jumping the other day, touching the rim for the first time on vert. So that's a good sign. But, we're not going to rush him back, and we're going to really be smart in how we take care of his body because, I think he deserves to be full strength and he deserves to have a whole season. So we see how it goes. But, hey, man, that's why we had to go out to the portal and get some other guys, some experienced guys to kind of help back us up while we're waiting for him to get back on the court for us.
I want to ask you about another guy you got coming back, Cooper Schweiger, the reigning Missouri Valley Freshman of the Year. One, I want to know what you expect from him. And 2, after you see this kid go out and average 13 points a game last year, is that why you went and got his twin brother so you can kind of double the magic here?
Yeah, man. It's pretty cool having twins, man. It's watching film sometimes you literally can't tell who is which sometimes. But I think Cooper's like about 2 inches taller, so you can see by the height difference. But, this is a kid that had no Division I offers, wasn't really on anyone's radar. I kind of came in late, getting a job late here and stole him. You watch him play last year, and you're probably shocked that no other Division I schools offered him. Now, with that being said, a lot of Division I schools are trying to get him last year, man. High majors are interested, but I think he's committed to our program, and he believes in me because I believe in him. And the funny story is, I told him last year around this May, meeting with his family, I said, hey, your son has a chance to be freshman of the year in the Valley. I think he's that good. And they looked at me like I was crazy because he didn't have any D1 offers, but I saw something in him, and I still see it. I think that freshman to sophomore year, you tend to make a huge jump. But with that being said, I mean, no one's going to be surprised about him anymore. I mean, he's going to be the target of every team's scouting report. So, I think he's going to take a jump. I think he's going to have a lot more help this year surrounding him. So I'm excited to see him and his leadership and his just maturity. And then, he's gained 15 pounds. So that was a huge thing for him, just to get a little stronger and take the physicality of the Valley and older guys in college basketball. So I'm excited to see him have a great season. Hopefully he's a guy that's, first, second team all league this year.
Yeah, Goodman also gained 15 pounds this summer, Roger. So
that's not off right now, Roger. I've been
it's probably a little easier. Probably a little easier for you than Cooper to do that.
Yes.
It was hard for Cooper to get those 15.
No doubt. Listen, all I know is you were smart when we had our dinner a few years ago in Spokane. I was drinking beer, and it wasn't light beer. You were drinking wine, which I know you absolutely love. A little smarter than me. I got a story for you, Roger, and I want to ask you this. What's your favorite go-to bottle of wine, if you had something? Because Rob once, when we went for dinner in New York a few years ago, it's me, John Fenn, and Terrence Oglesby, and we're at a high-class, upscale place for dinner in New York City. And Rob looks at the waiter, and he goes, could I have the best $15 bottle of wine that you have? $15 bottle of wine. That's what he said.
These are lies. I asked for the glass of wine.
Well, first of all, going to a restaurant, it'd be hard to find a $15 bottle of wine.
Yes,
but
agreed.
There are some really good $15 bottles of wine at Costco, and you go to. That's my secret, man. Costco, you can get a $15 bottle of wine. You go to a restaurant, it's probably 40, 50. So I got two of them I have to go to. Two of my go-to wines. The first one is Montepulciano. It's from the Abruzzo region in Italy. I played for Teramo basketball in Italy, and it was the Abruzzo region. So, every time I have a bottle of Montepulciano, it kind of takes me back to Italy, my European professional days. And then, man, my go-to, Tara and I, my wife, just celebrated our 19-year anniversary a couple of weeks ago, and I had to get a bottle of Camus, but I got it from Costco. So, I saved some money, and I just had to pay for the corkage fee when we went out to dinner. So those are my kind of go-tos, 19 years, we're going Camus, Nice. Dinner with you, we're probably going to go Montepulciano.
All right. Well, just don't let Rob. Hey, don't let Rob order. Whatever you do, don't let him order.
I do like that you said that you go to Costco for wine, because I always get made fun of for going to Costco to get cuts of meat. They've got the best steaks anywhere in New Jersey. That sounds weird, but where I live, the best steaks you can get are at Costco. All right, I'm going to get this thing back on the tracks. All right, Tyler Schmidt, NAIA All-American. We've seen players move up levels before and have success. Some of them have been in the Valley, some of them have been at levels higher, some of them at levels lower. But he is a guy that averaged 24 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists in college basketball last season, fifth-year senior. What are you trying to get from him? Like, what do you expect as he's moving up from NAIA to the Valley?
He's another one of those guys, man. That he has experience. I mean, obviously, you score that many points, you kind of know how to play basketball. I'm just looking for him to, be a guy that can, make some shots for us. He's not afraid to shoot and score. He's a bigger, stronger guard, so he gives us some age at the guard and forward spot. And, he has a very good understanding of the game. And the last thing is, I love the fact that he's from Valpo. I mean, he came to camp, back when I was an assistant here. And it's funny because I literally, remember his face from camp, and just, having a chance to coach him for his last year is kind of special.
All right, let's get it back off the rails again. The best ball boy in Valpo history, Roger. Actually, let's say this. If you had to rank from everything you've heard and seen and talked to the Drew, you're plugged in well with the Drew family. Would Robbie Hummel make the top 100 all-time ball boys in Valpo history.
Oh yeah, top 100. You know, I mean, it's crazy that he was a ball boy and his career. That's pretty cool, right? I'm telling you, man, the Valpo basketball tradition runs deep, even with guys that didn't come and play here.
I got
Has
one
he
more for you.
contributed to your collective yet?
You know what? We need to show him this because, you know, that would be awesome if he did. You know, I'm sure you could help
Yeah,
a little
he's
bit.
not Roger. He's not reaching in his wallet. Trust me, I've had dinner with him. He's not reaching into his wallet. So don't even.
He's a $9.99 bottle of wine guy, huh?
Yeah,
That's right. Pretty much.
Yes.
He and Rob Rob and Robbie are about the same there. They're about the same. So I got to let you know, you kind of broke my heart back in 2005, that Illinois team. You know, I went to Arizona. Like, you probably didn't know this. You did.
I'm sorry
Yeah,
about
you-
that, man.
I mean,
sorry. You don't bring
that
that
was
up
more
every time you
deep-
go to dinner. This is the first time you
Brutal.
brought this up.
I know. Well, I don't try to admit. I mean, again, that was as bad a beat as there was. Go back to that game, that Elite Eight game. What you guys were down 14 or something with like 3 minutes left, and beat one of the better Arizona teams of all time. End up going to the national title game, in which, by the way, people don't remember. How many rebounds you have in the national title game against Carolina?
I had 15. I had a few.
That's insane.
At 6'6".
I mean,
6'6".
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're a big boy, but you are not 6'9", 6'10". Like, you're built like a man. But go back to that Arizona game and what that was like for you. You're down. What was it? 14?
Yeah, 14 with like 3 minutes. It happened so fast, man. It was kind of one of those moments where you think you're down and out. And man, I'm the ref, so I literally prayed before the last timeout, and I was just like, man, God, if it's meant for us to go to the Final Four, man, you got to make something happen. And not a lot of people know I had testimony cards that I printed out with the campus ministry, and we had planned to pass out 60,000 of those cards at the Final Four. So if we would have lost that game, I think they would have still passed those cards out, but it wouldn't have been as cool if, I was playing. It wasn't playing in the Final Four. So that I was kind of thinking about that. I mean, there's a lot of emotions going through my mind, and before you know it, man, we ended up coming back, and I think people said it was like a little small earthquake in Chicago, because when we tied the game up, it was so loud. I mean, that in that arena and everyone's house. I mean, it was a special thing. But I look at it as I've been a part of so many awesome moments. From the Jalen Suggs shot when I was at Gonzaga to go to the national championship to that game to the Final Four game against Louisville where I missed a 3-pointer, tip dunked it. I mean, it's just I have some very special moments, and as a coach, I love being able to try to create those moments for my players, man, because they're pretty special, and when you're a part of them, it's something that you never forget.
All right, Roger, I'm going to end it with this. You've been parts of very special NCAA tournament moments. Valpo was a part of maybe the most memorable NCAA tournament moment, the Bryce Drew shot. What is the one thing that has to happen this year for you guys to be able to put yourselves in a situation where you can create that moment this year?
Well, I think something is already happening with our program. Getting here, a big thing for me was to kind of get, my DNA. And my DNA from a coaching standpoint is a collection of, Bill Self, Bruce Weber, Jerry Sloan, Mark Few, Bryce Drew, Homer Drew. So really kind of getting my culture developed has been something that was important. And last year we had to do that. We had to kind of set a foundation. But with the guys that we signed, these transfers, our guys coming back, we have some awesome freshmen. The DNA, the culture's here, and these guys are extremely connected. And when you have a team that's extremely connected, you have some decent players, you have some good experience, guys I already know, that's when special things happen. And every team that I've coached or played on, my 2005 team that went to the national championship at Illinois, 2021 team at Gonzaga with Jalen Suggs that, went to the, national title game against Baylor. My last year at Valpo with Bryce Drew, we won 30 games, and we went to NIT championship in New York. All those teams, they were connected. And I think we're getting there, but you need some things to go your way. So I think all of that together is going to, hopefully equate to us making a tournament run. We'll see. It's going to be hard, but I'm crazy enough to believe it.
We appreciate Coach Powell being here with us. We appreciate all of the coaches that we hear for Missouri Valley Media Day, and we appreciate all of you fans that tuned in to watch our 3.5-hour marathon live stream breaking down the Missouri Valley, breaking down one of the best and most entertaining conferences in all of college basketball. I hope you guys are as fired up for the 2024-25 college basketball season as we are, and there's going to be no better place to follow along with all of that than the Field of 68. We'll have coverage every single night throughout the entire season, and we hope we'll see you guys there.